At least we put this matter to bed. That's what she said. Or he said.
Hey, Ross, I was wondering if... Oh, my God! Where are all the men?
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. I did. Okay. You have no idea the physical toll the 3 vasectomies have on a person.
Now would you do me the pleasure of hitting the lights, sir? Ha ha. Whoa. What are all those stains?
Blood, urine, or semen.
Oh, God, I hope it's urine.
Hi, it's not Infinite Hope. That was the wrong intro. Hello, everybody. It's Nina Infinity. Welcome to this Wednesday show where we talk politics, entertainment, all sorts of crazy stuff. I did the wrong intro. Why do I have that intro still? I gotta delete that. This is old.
Ooh.
This is what I meant to do. Oops. But we're here. And I have Script Doctor with me. Hi.
Hi. Good to be here.
Welcome. Thank you for joining me again for another
thanks for
Wednesday
inviting me.
show.
Yeah.
I
No,
love
thanks for
hanging
inviting
out with
me.
you.
Oh, always happy to be here. I was telling you before we started that this has been a lighter week for me, so I'm happy to be able to pop up places again.
Yay. I mean, it's nice to have light weeks. It's definitely needed sometimes, you know?
Oh yeah, I know it's a nice balance because I feel like I've overworked myself to the point where I can definitely earn the appearance of slacking off, even though my work is done.
That's funny. Did you watch the Oscars?
I watched bits and pieces of it. I mostly just cared about the sketches in between because it was Conan O'Brien and his writing team were behind it, and apparently it was a big hit because it was the highest rated Oscars in 5 years. Across all their platforms, because it wasn't just over the air, but it was also digital and streaming through phones and whatnot. So
yeah, I heard like they were doing it through like YouTube TV for the first time and
Hulu and
yeah.
yep. So yeah, I mean, and that's good. It's well deserved because it was far less political than before. It was actually funny. And it wasn't like low-hanging fruit funny. It was like very cleverly done. My favorite sketch was the Ben Stiller Production Design Award intro.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Because that harkens back to like what comedy used to be, where it's like, oh, you get it. He's commenting about how important this job is, and that they are experts and they don't screw up while they are screwing up.
While they're screwing up, yeah. The part that I liked not that I didn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like didn't love it. Like, okay, I liked the James Bond memorial thing. It was kind of like like a memorial because it's over for those guys. Like,
yeah,
and like Amazon's got it. But like it started out really well. I don't know if you saw it, but then it became really bad when Doja Cat started singing, and I was like, the last 2 songs were so butchered. I was like, this is awful. Like
all of the singing, with the exception of this We Promise Not to Waste Your Time musical number, was really, all the singing was not that great.
No. Well, I mean, the first one which was like Ariana Grande and the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
That one was fine. And then of course Conan's song was fine. But like as far as the Bond stuff went, like the first girl, Lisa, she was good. But then the last 2, I was like, oh God. It's like it was like nails on a chalkboard. I was like, how are you gonna butcher these Bond songs like that? Especially the last one, because she was like doing Adele's song, and you're like, they couldn't just get Adele to come out.
Well, Adele, as far as I can tell, Adele has actually kind of learned how to become a singer recently, because her style when she started was her voice would crack and break in her songs, and that was supposed to be her thing. Well, also she was sitting down while she was sitting because she was singing, because she was a larger lady at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I always hated that, because when you work in the entertainment industry, and especially when you go to school with like English degree, and then you're doing all arts and entertainment and history, and you have to take various electives, and you meet incredibly famous and wealthy, like professional singers from opera and everything else coming in to teach your class.
Yeah.
There's like, yeah, if your voice ever cracks or breaks during a song, you are not a singer. Get out of this industry and fix your voice before you come back in again. And lo
Ooh,
and behold,
ouch.
you've got, 8 years later, I'm listening on the radio and I hear Adele doing all the things that these incredibly wealthy, like people who have way more money than some of the biggest bands in the world because they sing private operas all over the world for like tens of millions of dollars,
Damn.
are basically saying, yeah, that's not music, that's not singing. And it's like, oh, I can't believe she's popular among the locals and she's got this breakage in her voice. And then apparently the last few albums she released, she doesn't have that as much. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I remember though when she did Skyfall at the Oscars, she did it really well. I didn't think she had crackling voices or anything.
Well, that was her style at the time. Like that was,
yeah.
It's like, I can't mimic that style because I don't have a singing voice at all. And I was told by experts, I was like, would I have it? And there's like, even if we found it, by the time we did, you might be 80 years old.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
And I was like, that's fine. I'll just listen. I'll just like listen and take whatever advice you have. I'm not here to sing anyways.
All in all though, like you're right. Like, first of all, Conan did great. Like, I mean, I don't know why they kept bringing back Jimmy Kimmel because that guy was a nightmare.
Well,
and
Disney,
that joke he did when he was like, where he made fun of Carlos Sofia Gaston or whatever. And he's
if you do a review, I'm Jimmy Kimmel.
I'm Jimmy Kimmel. I thought that was funny.
No, that was pretty good. Well, I think it was because like Jimmy Kimmel was ABC's golden boy for a bit.
Yeah.
And ABC was doing it this year. However, they saw the patterns of every time Jimmy Kimmel was hosting, the ratings would go down every year, with the exception of Chris Rock and his little thing.
But that was only because of the slap, right?
Exactly.
And the ratings only went back up after the slap because nobody was watching before that. It just went crazy online, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Chris Rock just got slapped," and so everybody tuned in because everybody else was like checked out.
Are they going to replay that?
Yeah, they were like, "What are they going to do?" Like everybody was just like wondering what was going to happen, like if he was going to get kicked out, like, so everybody tuned in right afterwards. Even me, like, I remember my mom was on the phone because that year I was like, I'm not watching the Oscars, and she was like, please, like, watch it with me because it's always been our thing to watch it together. And I was like, fine, I'll tune in. And then like the second I was gonna go tune in, it happened, and then she like messaged me. She's like, oh my God, Will Smith just slapped Chris Rock. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm like log on. I'm trying to log. It was crazy.
Yeah,
and
what's crazy is that it did not kill Will Smith's career.
No,
as people predicted. I was actually against it because I'm like, this feels very gimmicky. Like he definitely hit him. Like I know that, and I think that part of me keeps on thinking that was deliberate because even when Chris Rock came back, his stand-up to address that was so weak. It just felt like there was something else going on there, and because Will Smith's career didn't tank at all. Like, in fact, he got a nice bump with the Bad Boys, and he's doing a couple other films which look like they're going to be well revered and well received.
He's back into music now too. He's doing
it's
music
like
stuff now.
I'm sorry, like this I think that was designed, and because
Maybe.
again, like Chris Rock has had some legit feuds with other, not necessarily celebrities, but other people for his
Comedians.
that he incorporates into his comedy, and it's way better than anything he ever came up with Will Smith. So I think it was
funny.
all kind of kayfabe at this point here, especially considering the fact that it happened and the entire controversy around it pittered out really quick.
Yeah.
Like
it's
really
weird
quick.
though. And I was like talking about this with a friend of mine. Like he was like, he's still banned from the Oscars though. He got like a 10-year ban for the Oscars. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I know he can't show up to the ceremonies.
Yeah.
But he can show up to the after parties, and technically he can still be nominated, but the Academy is going to scrutinize that anyways.
Yeah, the actor parties though are different than like Oscar because they're usually thrown by like Vanity Fair and the other parties.
A bunch of the trades throw their own Oscar party because again the theater is so big you cannot. I mean, you could host a venue that has all of them in there, but they don't all want to be there because some people are going to be upset they didn't win, so they want to be with other people to complain about the winners. And talk about how
I'm sure Demi Moore was one of those people. Like
absolutely.
Ooh, that was painful.
I will say this: there was definitely a political angle in opposition to the Academy rules this year, because this was the first year where all of those DEI requirements were needed in order to secure a nomination. And what's interesting is that the most independent film that details a heterosexual relationship and has a lot of authenticity and merit behind it swept the Oscars with 5 wins. And
That
the
was
one that had
nuts.
all the check boxes only got 2 Oscars out of it. One for song, which was absolutely insane, and then Zoe Saldana for keeping a straight face for the entirety of that horrible film.
That did require acting, I guess.
And I would say that that is a shift in response to, because again, the Academy has an administration staff that makes the rules, and then they have members of the Academy that do the watching and voting. And I think the members of the Academy were like probably geared politically to vote for Amelia Perez until those tweets resurfaced.
They canceled, yeah. when
And
she got
then
canceled.
they had
Mhm.
that last minute situation, which is like, okay, well, since we can't, support this individual anymore, we then have to rely on, I guess, our own opinion, which then comes down to a little bit of meritocracy. And it's not like a flat rate. The way it works, last I heard, I don't think it's changed, but the way it works is that you get your voter card and then you pick numbers 1 through 10 of who you are. They then average that out, and the highest points number gets the win. So, people for Anora, they could have all been voted like second place for that, but everything else could have been, but whatever was first could have been very varied across the entire spectrum. So the most consistent number for second place on the voting opinion ended up collecting the most amount of value, and that became the winner.
That's crazy. Did you watch Nora?
Yeah, I did. I actually appreciated it because I
Me
am a
too.
little bothered by people calling her a prostitute, because she is clearly defined as a stripper.
She was both strip doctor. I just called you strip doctor. She was both, because she was a stripper, but she was taking money to have sex with dudes. So
Yeah, but I
she's
mean,
also a
like,
prostitute. She was like a stripper prostitute. She was
well,
both.
I mean, yeah, to a degree. I mean, like, the thing is, the one thing that was kind of interesting is the fact that they tried to make the relationship between her and the Russian oligarch relatively authentic.
Mhm.
And you're like, oh, okay, so I get. And then I like the message at the end, which is that, sex is not necessarily a currency, and her
Right.
learning that. And I'm like, this is a very enlightening film about why sex work in this area should be scrutinized, but not
Mhm.
necessarily like, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily looked down upon, because
Mhm.
there are some cultures where it works and it's safe and it's effective and what have you, and it's temporary. And then there's others where there's exploitation, and then there's others where the women are very much in control, and
Mhm.
they are aware of, or I hope some of them are aware of, the consequences that they have to live with. But it's all comes down to the basic thing, which is like, that type of work and that level of intimacy is supposed to be cherished and not a currency.
Yeah,
And
and what bothers me a little bit about the movie and like the reactions to it, so especially with people who haven't watched the movie, are like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I heard that this was a movie that's like the adult version of Pretty Woman," and I'm like, "It's nothing like Pretty Woman. Like they're very
No.
different. Other than like her being a sex worker, there's really nothing else that's like Pretty Woman. She didn't change in that sense. Like it wasn't this change of like, oh, I have wealth and like whatever now, so I'm gonna
Mhm.
treat people differently, or I'm gonna like, act differently. The
There was a
story was so
struggle.
different.
Yeah, there's a huge struggle for her, because she has found herself struggling her entire life. And then
Mhm.
she finds something that hits her emotionally and also alleviates that struggle. And then the parents want to take that away.
Yeah.
And then, I could spoil it, but I'm not going to. But then you end up getting to the ending at the end, where you realize, oh, there's that one good guy that's not, you know, that's being nice to her, not for what she thinks, just to
I'm
be
actually
nice.
I'm gonna spoil it a little bit because I'm gonna tell you which part is the funniest, well, was one of the funniest parts to me.
Okay.
This is like a mini spoiler, so, so she fights off this guy,
Mhm.
and then, like, later on, they're having a conversation, And he's just like, and she's like, I knew you were gonna rape me. And then he was just like, what do you mean? Like, you thought I was gonna rape you? I wasn't gonna rape you. And she's like, you have rape eyes. And I lost it because I was like,
Yeah, I
this
remember.
and then she goes, and he's like, I have rape eyes? Like, what do you mean? And she's just
What are
like,
those?
what are those? And she's like, I just know you were gonna rape me. And he's like, no, I wasn't. And she's like, well, why not? And he's like, because I'm not a rapist. It was just such an authentic conversation. And it was so funny because I remember like when I was watching that scene when they were fighting, I was like, is he gonna rape her? Like, I was like thinking like, at first you think like all sorts of things because in that moment you're just kind of like, you're kind of going for the ride. But she was the psycho that attacked him anyway. Like, it was like a whole thing. Like, because he was like trying to like just get her to stop the whole time. And she was like, just a psycho bitch. And it was hilarious. It was a really interesting, it was a good movie. It was a good,
Yeah.
I was really surprised at how much I actually liked it. And it was really weird because when I first started watching it, I was like, because it takes a moment for it to get going. So I was
Mhm.
like, what am I watching? Like, there's a lot of sex. Like, I'm like, when is this going to actually pick up where I'm like, why am I watching so much sex right now? And then it does. And then you're like, okay, this is the movie because the setup took a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's basically trying to hammer down what is her world and what is her point of view. And
Mhm.
then you pull her out of this as a fish out of water being dedicated to one client. And then that world changes everything. And then she gets an opportunity, which wasn't expected. And then she comes against an obstacle, uses other opportunities to try and overcome that obstacle, fails, and then learns another lesson at the end, at which it shows how she changed. So it follows the classic hero's journey. In a sense,
Mhm.
what it does is it just extends the first act because you as the audience have to understand that her world is incredibly narrow because of the struggles that she's embraced.
Yeah, and the other part of it that I feel like a lot of people are just not doing it justice is like I think it's mostly because of her speech
Mhm.
that she gave at the Oscars
Yeah, I don't think
with
she
like
understood the movie she was in.
yeah, like the whole like praising the sex workers thing. And you know what? I'm gonna play it for the audience just in case like they haven't seen what we're talking about. But this is what she had to say when she was accepting the Oscars.
Thank you to our incredible consultants. I also just want to again recognize and honor the sex worker community. I will continue to support and be an ally. All of the incredible people, the women that I've had the privilege of meeting from that community has been one of the highlights of this entire incredible experience. I also just want to recognize the thoughtful, intelligent, beautiful, breathtaking work of my fellow nominees. I'm honored to be recognized alongside all of you.
Her face. She's just like, what?
Um,
But the sex work thing. So like while I understand that she wanted to kind of recognize the people she worked with, because obviously she had to like learn certain things.
Mhm.
But a part of the movie that was really interesting to me, and why again I feel like most people just are not kind of understanding of this because they haven't seen it or something, they're just kind of projecting something into it, was that it glorifies sex work. And I don't think it did. I would be the first person to call it out if it was one of those movies where it's like glorifying this industry and like making it like this glamorous thing. It wasn't. It was a
No.
very cutthroat industry. It was like one of the first lines that you hear in the movie is when she's kind of like having a cigarette outside with a girl and like with one of the dancers, and she's like, yeah, one of these guys I was dancing for was like asking me like if his he was telling me I look like his 17-year-old daughter, and she was just like, oh, you still dance for him? And he was like, yeah, girl, of course I did. But it was gross. Like,
Yeah.
so they were talking about the realistic people that you run into, and they were like kind of showing the different things that you experience as a stripper. And I don't think that certainly didn't glorify it. Like, so if you're a young person watching it, I don't think you're sitting there going like, yeah, that's what I want to do with my life, and she would go home to like a house with a roommate, and she wasn't making that much money, and she was being taken advantage of. And you know, it was definitely not the same thing as like, you know, doing OnlyFans and like, you know,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it-
that's the other world of sex work is that the OnlyFans stuff, even though it is primarily dominated by sex work, there's actually a whole section of like hobbies and comedians and stuff on there as well that actually
Mhm.
make a lot of money. But the aspect of OnlyFans in regards to that sex work is that's far more in control of the individual, as opposed to working at a strip club where you've got your base rate plus tips, you
yeah.
know. Um,
Yeah.
and it doesn't do the same thing. I mean, that's why a lot of strip clubs throughout North America and Europe are actually closing up. People can make more money on OnlyFans, and it's a lot more control. The women get to decide how much they want to reveal. They also get to
Mhm.
decide who they want to participate with, as well. And only in some cases where certain agents have gotten involved have you seen women do things that are stupid,
Yeah.
extremely troubling. But for the most part, like I have a friend in Florida, who I've known for years, she doesn't do any nudity on OnlyFans, but she's like a swimsuit model. And
Oh, I
she
see.
makes a couple $1 million a year. And I keep asking her to
Wow.
invest in some of my stories. And she's like, eh. And it's like, it's
Oh.
1 month of your pay.
Oh my God.
I mean, like
That's
I tease her
funny.
about that, but yeah, she just doesn't want to get involved in that. She's saving up for a family and a nice house and everything like that.
Now, let me
But
ask you
she models
something.
tasteful fashion too. So
That's
my girlfriend
crazy.
follows her, not on OnlyFans, just on the
Just
Instagram.
the Instagrams and stuff. Now, let me ask you something. Did you actually watch like most of the movies that were up for Best Picture?
I only saw I saw Dune, I saw The Substance, I saw Nora, and gosh, I know I saw another one. But I'm
Did you see
forgetting.
Conclave?
No.
Don't. Save
Uh,
your time because that
yeah, I'm
movie
trying
was
to remember
awful.
that's the other part too. It's a struggle to remember the types of movies that came out that are qualify for nomination.
Yeah,
No,
it
it
was.
really is, and it's telling with regards to the industry. It's telling that the Academy is not in sync with the audience. On top of that, it's also telling us that the studios don't have a diverse enough set of films across other genres that are gaining attention with the audience.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's gotta change. I think like because I haven't seen Wicked. I didn't have to. I've seen the stage play. I saw no value in seeing the theatrical version. Um,
I saw Wicked, but I'm just not one of those people that's like, oh, musical. Like, you
mhm,
know, I just don't feel like musicals are it's not strong enough to be like best picture, you know?
right.
But I hadn't seen The Substance and I hadn't seen the other one, which by the way, I also think is really unfair that international movies get to be nominated twice now, like for Best International Film and Best Picture. Because I Am Here, that movie was nominated for Best Picture and won Best International Film,
Hmm.
but then it got also nominated for Best Picture, and I was like, I don't know if this movie is like good enough to be Best Picture. I mean, I didn't watch it, but I just don't. I just think it's a little unfair that you know.
Well, that has to do with the fact that even though the Academy doesn't actually just focus on domestic films. It actually focuses on the world of film, which is why I mean some of those movies had financing by the Hollywood studios, but they actually are owned by other companies in other countries. So what they do is they have that classification of best international film, which basically means that this had an international partner of distribution, and it's not technically I mean, it's partially a foreign film, but not technically. And then you have your best feature film, and the best feature film is to encompass all of that. It would be better if they could say best domestic film, but then you're extending another 20 minutes of the show for something that nobody actually really cares. And the international portion of it, they do that to really just get eyes on the movies that weren't able to compete through advertisement domestically. So that's why you get some movies like that you'd never heard of before. You're like, well, what is this? But then you realize it's really good. One example is Parasite. I dug that a lot because I kept on liking the new twists that ever came with every 25 minutes into the movie. I'm like, okay, this keeps escalating and this is cool.
I
And
loved it too, but I don't think it's fair for it to get Best Picture as well as Best international thing. Like, I just don't think it's fair. because then
No,
he
I
get
understand.
nominated twice. Like the other films don't get nominated twice. I don't know. It's just a weird thing for me. So that one though, I didn't watch that movie, and then I forced myself to watch Conclave because I actually thought that was probably the other big bet, that because it was the big Hollywood movie, right? Other than Wicked. Like it was like the one with like Ralph Fiennes and it had a huge cast and everything. That movie was god awful. It was like 2 hours of my life that I'll never get back.
Mhm.
So I was like very glad that movie didn't win and Emilia Perez, because that was the other one. And I was like, I'm not watching Emilia Perez. I don't even care. Like, there's no way I'm watching this movie. So, but it was just it was an interesting Oscars though. And I did love the fact that they finally changed to Conan, but we have other stuff to talk about. So I know
Sure.
this just became like a whole Oscar conversation. But there was another show that went down last night, and it was Trump's speech to Congress.
Yeah, because it wasn't the State of the Union. It was just an address, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I believe it was just the address. It was like his first one. So I thought this was interesting. We can start here with regards to what went down. First, I think this actually went longer than 3 minutes, but I have a 3-minute clip here. Trump starts listing off a bunch of insane scams that the U.S. taxpayers are funding for DOGE.
And that's just under
Before
U.S.
DOGE.
aid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the U.S. aid stuff. And I mean, just listening to this guy go on and on. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've seen this clip. I thought it was quite. What's funny is that it kind of takes us back to the roots with regards to America when it first started, because some of the speeches would have some absurdities in them. Because again, politics is full of bickering and ego, especially in Canada. So when you see Trump doing an address here and he's throwing in some jabs, I'm like, okay, this is kind of class. This is like old school politician stuff.
Yeah, I like it too. I was like, this is why he's so entertaining. Like, love him or hate him, he's entertaining. Like, there's no other way of putting it. I mean, he is from The Apprentice. Like, he's gonna fire people, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to fire a couple of judges in the next little bit.
By the way, everybody, so just so you guys know, if you see these women in the crowd wearing pink, they all did this as a protest to Donald Trump
for women's rights, but
yeah,
also
for women's
voted to keep
rights.
men in women's sports. So there's your integrity right there.
What, like, bizarre, right? Just bizarre.
It's Congress and the Senate and government overall.
So here we go.
Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS to provide free.
I just love the way he talks. $22 billion.
Yeah.
He like really enunciates the billion.
Housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is.
What's a sedentary migrant?
$8
Yeah, I
million
know.
to promote LGBT.
What in the hell is that? I love how like JD Vance and like this guy's like laugh. Who is this guy again? I don't know who this guy is.
He is, I believe, the Speaker of the House.
Oh, yeah, but what is his name?
Oh, I can't remember.
Chat, Americans, help us out. We're two Canadians over here trying to like discuss American politics here. So what's this guy?
Well, I mean, I just don't remember his name. I know his position and what it means.
Yeah, I knew his position too, the Speaker of the House, because I remember Nancy Pelosi's there.
Yeah.
I
Like
don't know.
technically, they're the third in line to the office of the president if the first two.
Right.
broke. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Sedentary migrants is sitting and moving at the same time. That's funny. Mike Johnson. Okay.
Mike. Okay, thank you, Mike Johnson.
Mike Johnson. That sounds like such a made up name. Like, you got Mike Johnson over here. It's like John Johnson or something. It just sounds like a made up name.
So you know what's funny, like with regards to like the word sedentary migrant, George Carlin would say, "You mean immigrant?" Because that's what a sedentary migrant is: someone who comes in and then stays where they are, which is technically what an immigrant does. So you have two words to describe one word.
Oh, this is funny though.
LGBTQI plus.
Well, wait, what is it?
$8 million to promote LGBTQI plus in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of.
What the
$60
fuck?
million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million. $8 million for making mice transgender.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that one's also
This is-
real. That's
Like,
not
what?
a joke.
Like, I mean, they took that whole thing with buddy Alex Jones saying, they're putting stuff in the water to turn the frogs gay, and they I don't know, what are they doing to the rats? Like,
I guess
what?
they're experimenting on transgender surgery to see if it's viable for humans and stability.
Oh,
You shouldn't
God.
be. Oh gosh.
I don't even know what to
That's
say.
just making a mockery of the people who of an adult age are actually, dealing with that identity crisis of sorts.
Yeah, that's true.
Is real. $32
It's
million
real.
for a left-wing propaganda operation in Moldova. $10 million for male circumcision in Mozambique. $20 million for the Arab Sesame Street. In the
Okay,
Middle
hold the
East.
phone.
It's a program.
Okay, I want to see the Arab Sesame Street. Like, who's got a link to this show? Because that sounds hilarious. Where's Arab Sesame Street? I want to
Oh,
watch
that's a
it.
good question. I mean, I think I've seen a couple of few second clips on the Twitter X there, but I don't recall ever seeing like a full episode.
Oh my God. Like, you've actually seen clips? I've never even seen clips. If you find a clip, pull it up. Let's see it. Because I would love to see Arab Sesame Street. That's so funny. That is so funny to me. It's because I'm Middle Eastern. I find this
I'm only
extremely
seeing the Wikipedia for it called Iftaya Simsim.
I want to watch it. Somebody find me a link.
Like
and
there's
tag
the
me.
Wikipedia in the chat. Seeing if I'm trying to see if there's any visuals.
Yeah, we need
Or-
visuals. Where's like
Oh.
anything, like a clip?
It's very confusing because it claims that there's an original release from 1979 to 1989, and then another again in September of 2015 to September of 2019. That can't be. Maybe that's right. I don't know.
This looks old. This doesn't look like it's been funded by USAID.
USAID has been around for a while, actually. So this is not like something that's popped up over the last 4 years. This is a level of corruption that's been existing probably since before Kennedy came in to office.
Wow. So yeah, this has been around since 1979, man. This is a long time. This is a very old show. Wow. Running until June 1989.
So they did it for a decade and then they brought it back for 5 years.
Oh, wow. So I guess when they brought it back, that was the USAID, I'm guessing.
Or USAID could have been part of it from the beginning, but under a different name.
That's true. Very interesting. I want to watch this.
Yeah, because USAID's actually been around since 61. So you have to remember.
Wait, what? I found this, Darren says. Okay, let me pull this up. What is this? Oh my God, is this it? I feel like this might be it. Are we gonna get clipped? Or I mean,
I don't know if
let's see.
the Arab nations have that much power over YouTube for I mean, they're not Disney or Warner Brothers. If they do
play the
strike your
intro.
channel, that would be funny. But like terrible.
أهلا بكم جميعا هيا معنا العبوا حسنا هيا معنا العبوا وغنوا
But this is just Sesame Street that's like being like
Dubbed.
This is not like the real, like this is not their version. I thought they would had like their own version.
Like their own characters?
Yeah,
Mm.
that's different than like having a dubbed Sesame Street. I thought like they made their own Sesame Street with like, like a chador lady and stuff and like I don't know.
Just
I
think
don't
of
know
all the women puppets that you could easily puppeteer because you can't see their lips moving
right.
because of
That'd be
they're
so
wearing face
funny.
coverings.
Oh my god, like you can only see the eyes.
You only see the eyes. I
Oh
mean,
boy.
you know what's funny is that in the 80s and 90s, if they actually brought in a couple of characters that were from nations where the women had to cover up except for their eyes, they would be making a joke of how all the Sesame Street characters would keep mistaking one of those three women characters as a different character because all they can see is the eyes. It's like, can we put a badge on your outfit so we know which one you are? Because we don't want to be
Yeah.
rude. And it's like, no, that's prohibited.
Oh my god. You know what's funny is like JD Vance, I feel like is a huge fan of The Office because he always makes like facial expressions and like I feel like there's a constant like just camera needs to be on his face because of his expressions. Like look at him right now. We just caught him at a
He was actually coached to do this because he had never done these things prior to being selected as Trump's VP. And when he was selected those first few weeks, he really did a lot of gaffes. Like he has been heavily coached to be the type of guy he is. But it's kind of weird because my girlfriend was like, he's got very female eyes for a man.
Oh
Like,
my god.
she's like, they're too pretty for a guy. I'm like, okay.
Well, apparently he wears a lot of eyeliner. Wolf Spain for $1.99 says the tell is if Big Bird is different. Is it is that what it is? I don't know. Ian, oh my god. Thank you for the 50. That is so generous to just say Ahmed the Grouch.
Oh god. I'm in the Grouch. Okay, where would he live though?
Ahmed the Grouch?
Would he live in a cave or would he
Oh, that's
like
racist.
I'm just wondering where he would live because Oscar lives in a trash can.
Oh my god, he would.
What would
live
be
in
the
a-
appropriate Arab equivalent?
Maybe he'll live in like Saddam's bunker.
Sounds
Like-
bunker. Yeah.
I don't know.
He lives in a
Jesus.
hole in the ground.
Do you remember? And
Yeah.
do you remember in what's it called? What is that show? Amazing. What with Ron Howard?
Oh,
Arrested Development.
Yeah.
when the dad went and hid in the bunker.
Yep. Oh no, they did some brilliant stuff. They did the dad when he hid in the bunker, then he goes and hides in the attic.
Yeah,
And then he films himself claiming to have started construction on a border wall, but it's really him just driving around like a repurposed silo that's got like stuff a wall, and he's driving in a circle, but he's using trick photography of your camera to make it look like he's driving along a border wall that's miles and miles and miles made.
That show was something else. Like it's
Very
like,
ahead of its time. Yeah.
way ahead of its time. And I think I think a lot of people wouldn't understand it now. Like I think that because it's it was made for that period of the Iraq War. So I think kids today just wouldn't understand like some of the jokes because Saddam's era is over.
Yeah.
And I recently actually rewatched it and I was like, damn, this was intelligent comedy. Like you don't get that kind of comedy anymore. It was highly intelligent. Like that whole thing with him wanting to like bang his cousin.
Oh yeah,
So
with
good.
George Michael and Mabel. And
Maybe.
he knows it's terribly wrong until the last episode when you find out that Michael's twin sister is not really his twin sister, but a sister 3 years older than him and adopted.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god, it's so good. What a good show.
Yep.
Solid like Iraq. Solid like a rock.
Mhm.
Thank you, Wolfsbane for $1.99. There are regional versions of Big Bird. Look it up. Oh, okay.
Oh.
What do I even look up? Regional versions of Big Bird. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Oh my god. There's a Mexican one. That's funny. Okay, hold on. Let me look at this. I gotta pull up this picture. I know like Mexico had like a Spider-Man too. We'll come back to this, guys, in like just a sec.
Mexico and Italy, and Spain all have their own bootleg versions of various American properties.
Here is Mexico's Big Bird. Obviously, this is America OG. Here's Dutch. Brazil looks extremely freaky. There's Portugal. Portugal kind of looks like America's. Like they could be like brothers. Like Big Bird and Portugal could kind of be brothers.
Yeah, I'm still like lost as to what species of bird Big Bird is.
Isn't it an emu?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because emus kind of look like that. Like they're like large and they kind of have like those big legs.
Yeah. But I
And they
mean,
have,
it's
like,
not.
a
Emus
big
are more
beak.
like ostrich-like, I guess. But yeah.
I think it's the closest bird to it is like an emu. I don't
Maybe.
know. I just watched that episode of King of the Hill when Buck was like, "You need to kill my emus, Hank." You remember that? That was good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was funny. I didn't see an Iraqi one though. Let's go back to the USAID. USAID. Aid. Okay, here we go.
$20 million for a program. $1.9 billion to recently created decarbonization of homes committee, headed up, and we know she's involved. Just at the last moment, the money was passed over by a woman named Stacey Abrams. Have you ever heard of her?
Oh,
Boo.
she ran for governor. Yeah.
$5 million consulting contract for
People are
lavish
saying that
fish.
this chick's gonna be Elon Musk's next baby mama. Just because like he passed her like a water bottle or something.
Oh,
And like people were like, oh, like that's gonna be like his next baby mama. I was like, yeah,
is
that's
she of
how
age to still be giving birth? She looks.
she just look a little bit old. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm not sure.
She
But you know
looks
what?
like
It
some-
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they'll just IVF it and
Oh,
get a
almost
surrogate.
all of his kids are IVF. Yeah. So.
Yeah, he's a transhumanist. It doesn't matter. He'll just he'll make him. He'll make him anyways.
Mhm.
Monitoring. $1.5 million for
They
voter
practically
confidence
shared
in
DNA.
Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $59 million for illegal alien hotel rooms in New York City.
They show this
He's a
guy.
real estate developer. He's done very well. $250,000 to increase vegan local climate action innovation in Zambia. $42 million
fuck?
for
That's so
social
random.
and behavior change in Uganda. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well with learning. You know what we're doing. We should use it ourselves. And $101 million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education. The most ever paid, nothing even like it. Under the Trump administration, all of these scams, and they're far worse, but I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about.
Wow.
Mhm.
Like I said, I think it actually goes longer, but there's 3 minutes of stuff this guy was listing off of stuff that really is like really feels unnecessary for a lot of them, and especially when he's talking about like places no one's ever heard of, like
Yeah.
what the
I mean,
fuck?
The thing is that the what I've been reading of like the DOGE reports with USAID is they're actually just going backwards in time. So they've only gone back a couple of years. So remember they have to go back to as far back as 1961 because there's no way a program that started in 1961 was resolved between then and now because it's a government program under this bureaucracy, which means you've got something that's over 60 years old that has been sucking up, taxpayer dollars for something completely useless to the American people. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's basically it. So it's going to take a while for them to go back and realize like, hey, so this program that was the first thing USA did, and it's a scam. And we've been paying for it for 65 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to realize that, unfortunately, it is not a partisan issue. It's actually a bipartisan issue. It's a mono-party issue. because there have been other administrations aside from Democrats in office since 1961 that has contributed to the fraud that you're seeing in USAID, plus who knows however many other departments that are bureaucratic, that were set up bureaucratically that shouldn't really be doing the things that they're doing, or betraying the very intention for which they were designed. Like, for instance, Department of Education, that actually had a good idea behind it, but it was then taken over by the Reagan administration, and then it was actually padded out by that administration, continued to be padded out by the Bush administration, then further padded out by the Clinton administration, followed by the Bush tube administration, then Obama, and then ignored by Trump, even though he did get Betsy DeVos to lead it up. And I think she was kind of messing around with that too, which is why she's not back anymore. And then it just kept on bloating and bloating and bloating under all the administrations. So right now, this is kind of like the first time where you actually have the liberal idea of, yes, the government can actually fix something, and it's called cutting. And because again, the talking point from the Republican side was like, yeah, we got to make government smaller, but every action that they made ended up making it bigger. And then the Democrats did the same thing. We have to make government smaller, but every action they made it bigger. And it's like, and then traditional liberals and even traditional conservatives, like, we don't know what the heck they're talking about. Like, they're not representing our values. And then Trump gets in with his mixed cabinet of people who are across the spectrum of, conservative and liberal. And they're actually doing the very thing that people in the United States have been wanting for decades, which is like,
It's
we're
kind
going
of
to the money
amazing.
and cut it out.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. Like I mean, I don't obviously agree with everything Trump is doing, especially like, internationally, but I do agree with, what he's doing in America, which is, like,
Well-
I mean, no one's ever seen anything like this before. I don't think, not in my lifetime, certainly not mine. I don't think so.
There's nothing. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. However, there is a caveat, one which people are not really paying much attention to. That is, so DOGE is actually a rebranded department that was made under the Obama administration. Which means that after Trump leaves office and whoever succeeds them, they're going to be they will still have access to keep DOGE alive if they want, and then they could change what DOGE actually is. Which means that DOGE will just become another government program that has the potential to be the very bureaucracy with which it's responsible for cutting. So, I mean, it can't be, it may be on a time limit that you guys see, but it's on a time limit via executive action on top of something with Congress. Once Trump is gone, the next president, if they so choose, can roll back that executive action. You have to actually get those executive actions put before Congress to be put into law through the legislature. And if they don't do that, again, it's all easy to be wiped away. And it's that quick. So here's hoping that come the midterms, when Congress gets some of those legacy members out and you get some new blood in that are willing to make some sacrifices for the long-term gains of the country, they can pass the proper laws that are need to, dismiss the ones that are actually redundant or actually counterintuitive to what is required within the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and then say, yep, DOGE will be taken off, and the only way you can start it up again is either through executive action or through an action of Congress.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens when they don't have, because they'll change too. Like, the Republicans may not be in power forever, right?
Well, this tariff stuff here could actually lose the necessary seats for them to have a majority in Congress.
Yeah.
Because like Kentucky, Tennessee, and a couple of other states that have their economy is reliant on exports to Canada are now terrified. And if those states lose those jobs and their economy suffers from that, well, guess what? It's most likely that those representatives will not be reelected. And they'll be the opposition party, which means that the opposition party will now have the majority that won't need the dividing vote from, the vice president, who is the president of Congress, or president of the Senate, And then you're in a buttload of trouble again, trying to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now back to the speech last night. There was also this bit, which was actually very sweet. And I don't think I've also ever seen any president do anything like this before. I personally have not, but then again, I really haven't paid that close of attention to it. Maybe Obama may have, but I've never seen anything like this. And it says Trump makes 13-year-old cancer fighter and honorary Secret Service agent Devarajay. What Devarajay? I think that's what
Devarajay, yeah.
Devarajay DJ Daniel, who has battled cancer since age 6, became the youngest ever Secret Service agent. DJ has been sworn into more than 871 police departments. Now, we're going to actually watch this because it's a beautiful video. But the only thing I don't quite get is like whether he's a cancer survivor or if he still has it and he's battling it. Because I've heard conflicting reports.
Well,
about
to
that.
throw in a joke, I thought Trump was against DEI. Because this is a kid who survived cancer, which is great, but does that qualify him to be part of the Secret Service and privy to Secret Service knowledge?
Yes, because he has experience. Because it's also a little bit of nepotism because his family come from a family of police officers. So
it's in his blood. That's cool.
It's in his blood. Exactly. But here we go.
Joining us in the gallery tonight is a young man who truly loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer.
Oh,
great.
So sweet. This is very sweet.
Oh, he even has the breast cancer awareness ribbon too. So yeah, he's.
Aw. Yeah, he's got the pin that Kramer refused to wear during the AIDS walk in Seinfeld.
Why don't you wear that even?
That was like the first, I think that was like one of the first time that they made fun of the gay mafia and how,
yes,
controlling they are. Aww.
He's a little awkward and surprised, but that's cool for him.
It hasn't even happened
But
yet.
in 2018,
Well, just the attention
DJ
there.
was
Just the
diagnosed
attention,
with
yeah.
brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That
Aw.
was more than 6 years ago.
That was Wasserman Schultz, of course.
What was that?
Oh, that was Wasserman Schultz. She used to be the head of the DNC. She was she's notoriously corrupt. I don't think
She
she
didn't
actually
seem
holds
very
office.
happy.
But yeah, she's no, she's not. Yeah, her. She's the one that actually messed around with the delegates so that Hillary Clinton would win the primary for 2016.
Oh my God. How are these bitches gonna roll their eyes at a cancer kid?
Well, I think they're rolling their eyes at the fact that from their point of view, Trump is exploiting this kid for clout.
Is that what you think it is?
I
mean,
suspect that's the perspective that they're operating under.
But even if that was the case, the kid is there.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you can not be a bitch. I don't know. Like, even if that's the case and you really believe that the kid doesn't know that. And so is like his parents doesn't know that either.
Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer, actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States.
Look at his
Secret
face.
Service.
Oh, his face is so cute. Like
one
the way,
caveat,
like,
he
that
doesn't-
shock, Chris.
One
Agent
caveat:
of the
he doesn't have to throw
officially
himself in
make
front of the
you
president
an
to take a
agent.
bullet. He's too young.
Yeah. Well, he's also an honorary member. Like, he's not
Yeah.
gonna have to do that. Look at this face. This is the face.
He was like, "What? That's not. I have to take a bullet for you, sir."
He's like, I survived cancer for this.
I know you get shot at. I don't want to. But I will say
They say
it's a
it
good
doesn't
honor,
ever
honor to
happen, but
have.
it happened to you twice. I don't want to work for you.
But that is definitely the scrutinized look of, what did that guy just say?
Yeah. This is me when I don't know, something really shocking happens.
I
Like
like this kid already. I think that face tells a story.
I know this kid's awesome. Yeah, I really feel like there has to be a meme now. Like this clip of just him being like, "What?" Like this is me when I figure out there's still cookies left after I've
Been
after
told
I've
that there
already
aren't
had.
any.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, there's cookies. Ian so forth for 25 says that poor kid is now burdened with being the smartest person in the Secret Service.
Yeah.
This is true. Oh God,
He's
that
gonna
is
find out what
funny,
Donald
Ian.
Trump's code name is gonna be from the Secret Service. That's gonna be cool.
Oh my God. And then Aiken said for $7.99. Thank you. Aiken says, hi Nina and Script. Try find DJ's interview with the reporter. He's got swag. I do have something. I don't know if it's the one that you're talking about, but I do have an interview that he has done that we're gonna watch after. I actually have a couple of videos. I'm literally like the cookie monster. I'm like, there's cookies. Like I will become the cookie monster if there's cookies involved. Okay, let's watch
United
this.
States Secret Service.
He's like, dang. Oh, this is so sweet.
He looks like he's in shock. That's great.
I know.
I'm like, there's your photo ID.
Oh, they give him a little badge and everything.
That's a lot of attention and pressure for a 13-year-old. But like, good for
Aw.
him. Yeah.
This just melts the heart. I don't even care if it's for clout. They gave this kid who's been battling cancer. Cancer's fucked.
Brain cancer too. That's tough.
The toughest cancer is brain cancer. My aunt died of brain cancer. It's just terrible. So, like, I mean, they gave this kid hope, and
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's a really amazing. I don't even give a shit if it's for clout. The other one, the other Democrats that couldn't even stand up to clap for this kid when this was happening, I mean, they should really be ashamed of themselves, because I feel like even if you hate Donald Trump, and you're allowed to hate Donald Trump, he's definitely not a favorite of a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if you can't bring yourself to separate the issue and like hate Donald Trump, but also hate cancer at the same time, I feel like, you're a lost cause, man. Like, you can hate both. You can hate Donald Trump and you can hate cancer.
Yeah, but there's just like with the gay mafia in that Seinfeld episode, there is a groupthink happening right now.
That's true.
Very bad actors have basically taken hostage the opposition party, and have through whatever means they have basically said, this is how you're going to behave from now on. And for whatever reason they cooperated, which I find very anti-Western values. It's like when authority tells you to cooperate, it's like, wait a minute. Our entire modus operandi is question authority.
Right.
Like,
it's just really like pathetic to me. You can hate both, guys. You can hate both. Now this is the interview that I was talking about that I saw of him, and I thought it was really sweet. Here is this.
But you wanna know the craziest part? Because my mom bathes me and my brothers all together, and out of nowhere I locked up, and then my dad was calling my name, and I started going to the slow thing, and he said, "Stop playing with me," and then I started to act, I ain't gonna lie, I started to act slow, and then as soon as he said that, we was speeding all the way, running lights, going to the hospital, and then next thing you know, I was seizing on the table. They said, "No, we gonna have to go in his brain tonight." Ever since then,
Aw.
I had 13 brain surgeries, and that's how many times my personality has changed. And that's something that you don't hear from a terminally old child. They had 5 months to live. I'm gonna keep on going until my gas tanks run out. And that's when God calls you home. You never know when God's gonna call you home. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my dad. I know he's pretty proud of me, and I'm pretty proud of him too. And I'd like to thank President Trump, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today.
Oh man, that is so sad.
But
But
you wanna know the
so
craziest
brave.
part?
Yeah.
Because my mom,
And he talks so intelligently. See, Ian's
Well, he was
very right
13,
about
so
this.
he's good.
He's very right. You're very right, Ian, because I feel like this kid's incredibly intelligent. That's so interesting that he said his personality's changed 13 times, because that's the amount of times they've gone into his brain.
That's but if it's changed 13 times, but his whole goal was always to be a cop, that's good. They didn't get rid of
incredible.
that. Thank God.
Now, this is kind of sad, but also, so what happens when bullies, like, yeah, everything what goes around comes around. But now, like, this is really interesting because it says last year, young DJ Daniel was bullied and harassed by a group of people for wearing a police outfit. Last night, he was recognized by President of the United States and named an honorary Secret Service agent. So this is actually a video from last year where
you can arrest me. You too cocky.
this kid was apparently being bullied.
His ass back for real. Sir.
What is that woman doing bullying the kid with hair like that?
I have no idea what's happening. Wait, what do you say?
what's he supposed to be doing? A wiggy dance?
Arrest her. Well, baby, you can arrest me. You too cocky.
And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
Well, we just saw this part, but I
Yep.
can't believe he was getting bullied.
I can. Kids are jerks.
I know. Kids are assholes. The fuck? But yeah, that's what I saw. And then there was another thing that was going around, and a lot of people were upset about it. Was this lady's comments from MSNBC. Did you hear about this lady going off about this kid?
No, I have not. I don't know
Okay,
why
well-
someone would have any reason to go off on this kid.
Just listen to this.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ. And I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States.
I right here is where she should have ended that. This conversation, what she just said was all good. Like everything she just said was great. That this is the moment where she had to stop. Somebody had to yell, cut, like that. This is it. That's the take. Yet, like Adrian Brody, she decided to go on and talk more. Did you see that at the Oscars where he got cut off and then he kept going on? That was something. So is this. Here we go.
Has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump supporters.
Wait.
Defend the United States as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
What the
fuck? I think this was a lesson in finding one.
That is like such a bizarre thing to say. Like, oh, I hope you don't fucking I hope you survive cancer enough to not have to commit suicide. Like, what the fuck?
Well, she's using the suicide as a byproduct to an action that well, it's not going to be repeated because the circumstances which caused that action to happen in the first place have not come up again. And the other part too, they're most likely not going to come up again because I would be very surprised if Donald Trump tried to get the term limits for the office of the president overturned so that he could run for a third. I don't think he's
No.
going to do that.
I don't think so either.
So yeah,
I mean,
she's
he's not
creating a
Zelensky.
context based off the past that's most likely never going to repeat again in that boy's lifetime.
Ian says Rachel Maddow blinking to stop the moisture destroying her circuits. I mean, did you see the other chick too? Like the
Jennifer Psaki,
what's her
was
name?
it? Or
Yeah. Jen Psaki was there. She just looks all fucked up too. She's like, wait, what are you doing? We're gonna get. She's like, this is gonna go. She knows. You can already tell. Like, she's like, ah, shit. Like, what are you saying? Like,
Yeah.
her face is just like, what the fuck did you just say?
You know, it's times like this I miss the sketch that Canada used to do, which is called Talking to Americans, where Rick Mercer, who's a Canadian comedian, would go out and talk to these people who laud their education and experience and actually just expose how stupid and uninformed they actually were.
You should bring it back.
He should bring it back, but he's kind of retired now.
No, I'm saying you should bring it
I
back.
should do that? Oh,
Yeah,
God.
you should. Why not? It's funny.
Oh, yeah. I could go there and be like, actually, Canada has petitioned not only to become the 51st state, but also the 52nd as well, because we have 3 territories that exceed the population of some of your own smaller states.
Yeah,
well.
send them up. Send them up to the Icelands.
Yes.
We pay.
Like,
we
or
pay for
if
your housing.
Canada does join the United States Union, there is a request law that igloos will have to be considered a third form of housing unit throughout the rest of the nation.
Hilarious. Hey, what's up, Russell? For $2, Donald Trump is literally twice the man Zelensky is. You mean like size wise? This is true. Like,
Well, I think also in
pretty
spine
guy.
to a degree. I mean that conference there, that I understood the points of view of both sides in that, but I think Zelensky did not help himself. Kind of
That's
goading it
because
more.
Zelensky was high, dude. Like, he's like
Probably.
high on cocaine. He's like, what do you think? Putin, he bad, he's gonna come invade. He like, dude, the guy was fading.
He was fading, and he also wasn't able to coherently articulate the issue we had, which is like, so his argument was, and I don't think it's entirely valid because you should take it every time. Is that why should I sign a ceasefire treaty when Putin has violated it all the time? It's like, because it's still a ceasefire.
Exactly.
Like,
And
that's just
also, I don't know if you've watched the full thing, but I did. Like, I watched I tried to watch the full thing, but it was a lot of it was bullshit anyways. Like, cause it was like, it was like a 45-minute thing, but the last 15 minutes was really interesting. And one of the things that they said was like Donald Trump was like telling the interviewer chick, like, or one of the not interviewers, one of the questioners, like, how do you think like a peace deal is made? Like, you think I'm going to talk shit about Putin and then get on the phone with him and be like, hey, Putin, like, how about that peace deal? You think that's how it works? I'm like, that's exactly, like, it's not going to work like that. If you go and talk shit about him, he's not going to want to do peace. Or like the other part that he brought up was like, do you think, like he was saying at the end, because everybody was like, well, Putin this and Putin that. And he's like, well, Putin went through the whole Russia Gate thing with me. Like, you guys accused him of all this stuff, and it turned out that he wasn't freaking guilty of any of it. Like, you guys just made shit up about him, and he knew, and that's why he trusts me, and he doesn't trust you guys, and he doesn't trust anybody else. So that's why he respects me. And I was like, yeah, it kind of makes sense, because they did do that to Putin. Like, it was like all Russia, Russia, Russia. And then it was like all of a sudden, at the same time as what they were doing to Trump, they were doing to Putin.
Yeah.
So obviously he's going to listen to him because, they're in the same boat.
It's actually it's a lose-lose situation. Even if the war ends, Putin will have gained territory within Ukraine, and because he knows that he can do that just by constantly nudging those borders further, deeper into Ukraine over time, he's going to do it again, regardless if Trump's still in office or not, or if his successor is in, because he knows what the outcome is going to be. Ukraine's going to fight back. They're going to do all the crimes that they did with money laundering, what have you. Putin will eventually gain some territory. Then he'll stop, but he'll hold that line. Then they'll negotiate a new treaty, which means that Russia now claims that land. And then he's just going to cycle it through over and over again until he gets deeper and deeper. And there's no deterrence anymore. And this all happened because in 1994, Ukraine agreed to remove their nuclear missiles for basically guaranteed United States protection. And what ended up happening is that previous administrations of the United States faltered on that. And and now that's how we got here.
And here we are. And David Morris says for 5, love to the panel and chat. Thank you, David. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And Russell Hall for 2 says Putin didn't violate any ceasefire treaties. Well, even if he did, it wasn't under Donald Trump. It was from the previous administrations, like what Donald Trump was saying. He was like, I wasn't here, because he was like, you did this in 2014, and then it's just like, dude, I wasn't here.
He actually did it once also under Trump's administration, but then it already had stopped. By that point, like there wasn't any more, because it was right when he started, because he had taken Crimea, I think it was. And then Trump got in, and then within a matter of months, like there's a ceasefire, then a matter of months it broke, and then it was done. And then there's no more movement on that, if I'm remembering correctly. Again, this is like 10 years ago.
I see. I also just saw your message, Aiken. And okay, this is what Aiken was talking about, because there was an interview with him as well, with the little kid, with DJ. Here it is.
Very nice to meet you.
DJ Daniels, so amazing.
I just
Absolutely
realized
incredible.
that that's the first
Thank
time I
you.
ever shook the woman's hand.
Aw.
That's crazy.
13 years old and he's never shook a woman's hand?
Thank you so much.
He's got to move.
Natalie, thank you so much. DJ.
What? That's it? Like 13? I mean, mind you, he's been like in and out of the hospitals forever. Like,
True. Like, but you think a nurse or, female friends at school.
that is kind of strange.
Maybe he's just, maybe he grows up with a bunch of where the women there are pains in the ass.
Maybe he doesn't want to touch them.
There's that too.
Russia Hall. I was going to call you Russia Hall. Russell Hall. Thank you for the 5. Russia. It's because you wrote Russia and your name is Russell. So I don't know if you know what I'm saying? Russia has zero interest in claiming more land. They're not going to give any of it back, but they have way more than they can use. I agree with you, Russell. I don't think they're gonna.
That
claim
Tucker
any
Carlson interview with Putin suggests no, he wants all of Ukraine back.
Well, no, I mean, I think that they're gonna keep what they have now. I don't think they're gonna. I don't think Russia's going to expand into Poland or the rest of Europe the way like a lot of people are like, oh, he's going to come after us after he's done with the Ukraine. And I'm like, oh, I don't think so. I don't see it.
Not with this current administration in office.
Well, not even that. I don't even think I just don't think he's interested. His main motivation was to stop the Russian killing. That's why he went to the Ukraine to begin with, because he was like, that's it. Like this whole.
Well, that's what he
Russian...
said, but we can't believe what a politician says, because that's how you know they're lying, when their lips are moving. You also have to remember that Putin grew up within the Soviet Union, and he has done actions and made suggestions that he would like that original border back.
It's possible, but I don't see it. I personally
I don't see him succeeding. I know that. I don't see him succeeding in that. But given the fact that he in 10 years, he has claimed some significant portions of Ukraine through military action, and which resulted in treaty and surrender of land. He seems to have figured out what the plan is and knows how to do it. And so long as he's alive and in the power that he has, I don't believe he's going to ever stop. I think he's just going to pick his battles appropriately when he knows he can get away with it, because he's already proven that he has. Like, that's just it. There's been no deterrent to stop the pattern.
I mean, I can't tell. Like, I won't be surprised if he does it, but I just don't see it. Like, personally, I think he's very Russia-centric. I don't think he wants to expand into Europe.
Well, the thing is,
I think
he's Russia-centric.
He wants to take over Russia.
Well, he's Russia-centric, but you have to remember, when the Soviet Union was the Soviet Union, that was considered Russia.
Yes.
all the way up to the border between East and West Germany.
But I don't think that that's what he wants. He wants the Russia now to be the top Russia that it can be. He doesn't want I don't think he wants Slovenia and like all those guys to come back into Russia. I really don't.
Oh, I have suspicions that he actually does, but there's fantasy as opposed to what he can do in reality.
Maybe.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. That's possible. Ian so forth for 25. Hey, Ian, you might get conscripted soon to go to the front lines for the Ukraine. I'm a little worried about you. For 25, he says the nuance is, and I'm not taking sides, that many within Ukraine, a Ukrainian border want to be Russian. Exactly. But it is an invasion that is beyond a doubt. Also true.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, the other part too is that the last two previous administrations in Ukraine would refuse to hold a referendum to allow them to secede and join Russia. And then at the same time, it was uncertain if Russia actually would accept them in. It's a similar situation to Quebec with regards to seceding from Canada and joining France. Like France has no interest in Quebec.
No. Nope. Nobody has interest in Quebec, not even Canada. They were like, I guess you can secede if you want to, but don't. They were like, okay. I don't know. I just don't. I don't see it. But Galadorn also just made a really good point. He's also old and has no heirs, and possibly fighting cancer. I don't know if he's fighting cancer, but he is old. I don't think he's gonna be like, I'm gonna invade Poland next and then move on to the UK.
And there's no one really in his sphere that cares to follow in his footsteps that we know of yet.
Ian says for 10, I'm approaching 42. My back hurts. Okay, so you're saying they're not going to come. They're not going to take
most
you
likely
away.
They won't. But here's an irony. This would be a brilliant political irony by the British. Is they say, yeah, we're joining, but guess what? All immigrants that want path to citizenship have to sign up and
to go serve the Ukraine,
and they have to be first. They have to be the ones out there first before the British-born citizens.
Damn, that would be that is what
that'd be a nice twist. It's like, oh, all those fighting age men that came to the UK, they now have to go and be the fighting age on that border there if they want to get citizenship, and that kind of solves your problem.
I don't know, dude, because I saw this. Ian, I'm talking to you. I saw this thing. I'll come back to this in a second. Russian Russell. I saw this video that they were like taking this Ukrainian dude that was like, he was an older dude.
Yeah.
And they were like shoving him into the car so that they can go take him to the front lines. And I was like, and he's like, I have small children at home. Please let me go. And like, that was really sad. I don't know why I'm laughing. It wasn't funny at all. It was terrible. And that's what Donald Trump was talking about. Like, he's like, your people are dying. And like, they're literally like taking people off the street to like stick them on the front lines. So I wonder if like they're going to do that in the UK. Like they're going to be like, I don't care how old you are. You're coming with us and you're going to the front lines.
I mean,
like it's
they
bad.
could probably get away with it in a few neighborhoods, but there's a lot of people in London and England that they're tough. And even
that's
with
true. Those soccer hooligans, like they'll fuck you up. They mess a motherfucker up.
Yeah.
Let's.
I mean, they're just being polite when the police come to arrest them for memes, but they're just like, no, you want me to go across, the channel and fight another war? No, I'm fighting you first before I go there.
Yeah, I'll fight you. Yeah. Russell Hall for 5 says all Russia wanted was a guarantee that Ukrainians wouldn't join NATO. This is true, and for them to stop shelling the separatist regions. Also true. And
those are two very big factors with regards to what started this. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the whole, like them killing the Russian speaking people and them also using the Nazis, like the Nazi battalions, which Putin wasn't a fan of. Russell Hall for 5 says if Ukraine had signed the treaty offered at the start of this war, they wouldn't have lost any territory and all of this would have been avoided. I mean, I totally agree with you, man.
Yeah. It was it was Boris who on the behest of some other person nixed that deal. He said something and then that caused the deal to collapse. And then
I think so.
And I think that was right after he lost the prime minister's office. So
It's been a nightmare. Like, and I had a feeling, and it's weird, Russell, that we're agreeing so much. I mean, you and I don't really agree on much a lot, but we're definitely agreement on what's going on in the Ukraine. It's so weird because when I started to watch what was going down, like you at the beginning, remember you started hearing all these crazy things like the ghost of Kiev and like all this fucking crazy shit, and you're like,
Well,
what
the
the hell's
poisoning
going
of
on
one
over
of
there?
the previous prime ministers of Ukraine. I remember it was 2012 or 2014. He was poisoned, and he's miraculously survived. But then I guess he was deposed.
What are you talking about?
That one of the former prime minister of Ukraine was poisoned.
For
This was
when?
before Zelensky, and I think before him, the person that was preceding Zelensky as well. This was a long time ago, but I remember it being big news because it was a failed assassination attempt on a political leader. And
Oh.
I think it was like a poison he would have to ingest because his face got all swollen and distorted as a result of it. But he survived.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I don't remember that or hearing about that. I have to look into that. But no, but like I remember when the war started, though, it was so crazy because you kept hearing all this crazy shit, and then in the middle of it, like in the height of the war, all of a sudden Zelensky's taking like Vogue photographs, and I was just like, what is happening? And he's like doing like Vogue for like with his wife. I'm sure you've seen those.
Yeah,
pictures.
there's definitely hypocrisy there. So I double checked. It was Viktor Yushchenko, and this was in late 2004, where he was poisoned with dioxin, and it's part of a chemical that's in Agent Orange. So like, Ukraine has been going through a lot of political issues for the last few decades.
But they've also been like during that time that you're talking about. Well, I don't know if it's during that time, but I mean, certainly before Biden got into power and during, Ukraine was known as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Like, certainly in Europe, like it was kind of known that they were like super corrupt.
Oh, yes. But now DOGE is proving that it's most likely the United States now is going to take that trophy away. So,
well, they gave them a lot of money, too. Like, where do you think all that money is going, man?
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's an all participation. I mean, the funny aspect with regards to like the United States and even to Europe is, and this has more to do with the culture of people outside of the United States, is that we kind of learn about the other countries and their politics to a degree, where we actually know, oh yeah, we know all these various countries are very corrupt and what they're doing. And people who live in the United States have no clue about it because they just don't care. And their culture is designed to not care, which is fine. But I mean, it's also to the point where when you're American and you travel throughout Europe or Canada and, they brag about being the freest country in the world. And we're like, well, we know that it's in your constitution, but we also recognize that a lot of your political representatives don't believe in that. and now you're finding it out firsthand with DOGE and the abuse of money and the lies that are coming out and the exposure. It's like, yeah, all of us on the outside looking in, we knew that. Now you're joining the party with us and we're saying, welcome, congratulations. We are pulling for you to get your act together and be the very thing that you boasted about, because that will have a nice ripple effect throughout the rest of the world. But I mean, for decades, it's something like Paul Chados has a phrase that his father said, which is that the Americans believe that they are the freest country in the world, and the rest of the world knows that they're not, that they really aren't. And that's going to change soon now with this administration.
It certainly feels that way. But it's so funny because I'm trying to look for this other photo because I feel like these photos from that Vogue spread have actually kind of been like memory hold now because they were so terrible. Like, for example, there's this photo here. And I remember when I saw these, I was like, okay, this war is just bullshit. Like, this guy's there's like some money laundering or some shit going on. Because this one, like, I remember in this photo specifically, he had a photo of himself in the background. Like, this is Zelensky's photo.
Yeah, but isn't the other one his wife?
I don't know if the other one's his wife.
Because that looks like one of those family album display things. Like my grandmother used to have that with her and her husband, who was my dad's stepfather, and then she'd have other ones with her grandchildren and then her children. It's stupid. I never liked it. I hated the fact that my parents would make me pose for a stupid photo that would then go to my grandmother that she'd put on her mantle, like it's some sort of display.
This is on a couch.
Yeah, that's on a
Like,
sofa.
we're putting our own pictures on the couch in
It's
our
like,
background.
those should be hung up
Like,
proper.
why don't you just remove this at least and like put the two side by side? Like they're like, no, we're putting
Oh,
our
yeah.
own pictures
Oh,
in the
no,
background.
like-
For the love of God, this is. I mean, it's just so. There's so many things wrong with this
It's
photo.
creepy and silly. Like even my aunt did that with her kids, my cousins. They had these like expensive black and white photos where they're all where my cousin, her son and her niece, her daughter were in like these black kind of like formal wear, but it was all black. Like there's no white contrast. The white contrast would just be their skin and then the background. But it was like Vogue shots, and I'm like, my cousin's like 4 years old. Like these are 4-year-old kids. Why are they pictured like that? It's so stupid.
That's funny.
But they were also living in a very Italian-centric neighborhood, and apparently that was the culture.
Oh, speaking of Italians, did you hear how like the Italian, excuse me, prime minister or whatever she's called, she was like, "I'm not sending my soldiers." Like,
yeah, you can go. We're gonna stay.
No. I feel like she's lobbying to be Elon Musk's next baby mama. I'm just putting that out there.
It's a sure thing with financial security if you have a kid by Musk.
I would not be surprised if she comes out, like if news comes out in the future that she's one of them. This was one of the other photos with the wife with a bunch of female soldiers. I mean, this was so bad. This was so bad. Like, there's just so many things. And then, like, that same year, he did the Oscar speech. Remember? I mean, it was just so bad. Like, there's just so many things.
The thing is, he's basically a canvasser for like a charity, like that's on the street saying, "Hey, could you please give me your credit card number so we can take monthly deposits for fighting this thing overseas that you don't know if it exists or not? And we keep 90% of it for administration, and 5% goes for the people that need it."
He's like that. Yeah, he's like, what is that?
That's a canvasser, street canvassers.
Yeah, but like there was a program that was like in the 70s, 80s about the African kids that you like.
UNICEF?
UNICEF. He's like UNICEF, but like more.
Well, now
even more
it's like
corrupt.
UNICEF, Doctors Without Borders. There's another one that's like International Human Rights. Which is hysterical because they'll ask you like, what do you think is the most important human right? And I go, the right to privacy. And then they kind of have to think and realize, oh, wait, I'm kind of bugging you. Even though you're in a public street, even though you're in a public street, you do not forfeit your right to privacy, because if someone asks you a question, you have no obligation to respond. Right. So that's one of the things. And it throws them off because it's like, oh yeah, I'm kind of like, you are out in public because you're going somewhere deliberately. And my interfering with that is kind of considered rude.
That is so funny. Galadorn says something interesting. The U.S. and Russia used to work together to hunt down the Russian mafia. The few that survived hid in the Ukraine. That's interesting.
Was that when Gorbachev was?
I'm guessing.
Yeah, because I know the mafia was still pretty virile up until the early 90s.
There was this little thing before we call or we move on to the next topic. There was this little clip that is a bit of a Freudian slip. This was fucking hilarious. So here we go.
You don't care about this country, and that is unacceptable if you claim to be the president of the United States. So we are here. We are not going anywhere. We are going to continue to fight back, and we are going to continue to speak lies to his truth, his stealing, and to his cheating. Thank you.
Ouch.
Someone needs a teleprompter.
Yikes.
This is as bad as that other politician that couldn't spell eagles.
What?
Yeah.
There was somebody like that?
Yeah, she was chanting like, she's trying to do a chant like "Go Eagles" for the Super Bowl, but she spelled EGLES instead of EG.
Oh no, I didn't see that. That's hilarious. Yeah, so lies to his truth. I find that very fascinating. It's like as if they know kind of in the back of their minds what's going on.
Yeah,
Um,
which is frightening, and also reinforces what we just said earlier. Like, guess what? The United States is pretty darn corrupt.
it's just it's
They're
sad.
the only thing the reason that they're kind of failing is they're now becoming competent too. So,
A little bit. There was this other interesting thing that happened with Melania Trump, actually.
oh
And I
yes,
thought this was interesting. So Melania Trump says that it's heartbreaking to watch teens grapple with the fallout from revenge porn. It says Melania Trump on Monday lobbied on Capitol Hill for a bill that would make it a federal crime to post intimate imagery online, whether real or fake, and said it was heartbreaking to see what teenagers and especially girls go through after they're victimized by people who spread such content. It was her first solo public appearance since she resumed the role of the First Lady on January 20th. She called on the Republican-controlled Congress to prioritize the well-being of young people. Quote, "This toxic environment can be severely damaging when we must prioritize their well-being by equipping them with the support and tools necessary to navigate this hostile digital landscape," she said during a roundtable discussion about Take It Down Act at the U.S. Capitol. Every young person deserves a safe online space to express themselves freely without the looming threat of exploitation or harm, she said. The Senate passed the Take It Down Act in February, and Melania Trump's public backing could help usher it through the Republican-controlled House and to President Donald Trump's desk to become law. The bill's chief sponsors are Senator Ted Cruz, which I'm not a fan of, and Amy Klobuchar. I don't know who that
Klobuchar,
is.
yep.
And D. Min. Like,
She's the Democrat in Minnesota.
okay.
Yeah, she's kind of not really a fence sitter, but she does bounce between both sides. She's not the most rational. Well, maybe she is one of the most rational of the Democrats, given their current metric. But I mean, she's definitely not perfect. I mean, she's definitely less divisive than Ted Cruz is. Like, Ted Cruz is only elected because people are comfortable with him in that office. That's basically it.
So the other reps, Maria Salazar and
she's a Republican from Florida, and then Madeline Dean, who's a
Madeline
Democrat
D.
from Pennsylvania.
Cruz, who hosted the discussion on the Capitol Hill's Mansfield room, told the First Lady that her leadership is incredibly important, and I'm confident it's going to play a critical role in accelerating the passage of this bill and getting it passed into law. He said the measure was inspired by Ellison Berry and her mother, who visited his office after Snapchat refused for nearly a year to remove AI-generated non-consensual graphic image, also known as deepfake, of her 14-year-old daughter, Elliston, and other victims shared their stories Monday. Meta, which owns and operates Facebook and Instagram, supports the legislation. The bill would make it a federal crime to knowingly publish or threaten to publish intimate imagery online without an individual's consent, including realistic computer-generated images of people who can be identified. Social media platforms would have 48 hours to remove such images and take steps to delete duplicate content after a victim's request. Having an intimate image or real AI-generated shared without consent can be devastating, and Meta developed and backs many efforts to help prevent it. So this is basically, like this article said, was due to this issue here.
Yeah, someone, I guess they used I guess AI to do those old Photoshop things where you Photoshop a person's face onto the body of a naked person. And because it's AI generated, it's a far more convincing illusion than the real thing.
Yeah.
And if you release that or use it as extortion, that should be a crime. I mean, it technically is a crime in one area, but I think this would then add in the idea of AI and deepfake technology to that, because AI and deepfake can actually apply to video.
Yeah, I think they're basically kind of amending the already existing revenge porn laws to do this. I mean, they're calling it this other act, but there's already laws into place with this, like the Take It Down Act or whatever. but it is a form of revenge porn, and certainly when it comes to minors, like this girl's 14.
Yep.
I mean, I think that there should be definitely like some way of protecting these poor kids. Mind you, like the best protection is to stop having kids online. Like personally, if I was a parent, I wouldn't let my kids online. But you can't stop them either. So it's a pickle. It's a pickle about what could happen. Because I mean, at the end of the day, everything like this is a double-edged sword, right? Like you could have
because this can be abused
yes,
and extorted in some ways. I mean, that's the risk with every law. It's like it's maybe put in a place to protect these people, but someone might find an interpretation of it to infringe on other people's rights.
exactly.
And that's the gamble we have to take. And that's why, as people who vote in your country, you have to scrutinize all the legislation that's proposed. You also have to make sure that it's not the size of a phone book, because that's where you get your exploitations factored into. And then on top of that, you also have to try and make it as precise as possible so that certain interpretations can be easily argued against.
Right. And like, so, like for example, this is a good point. Here is how they can handle consent being revoked. Like that's something as well. I mean, not necessarily with minors, because minors can't consent generally speaking. But when it comes to like an adult person consenting and then deciding, you know what, never mind. Like, how does that work?
Like you'd have to, what is a process would have to be put in place with regards to contesting or rolling back consent? I mean, you could probably take something similar to what's done in Hollywood since 1976, which is that after X amount of years, the rights of the IP goes back to the creator. And so, I mean, again, this can fall into a rights issue as well, where if you publish a photo and then someone takes that and manipulates that to be provocative, and yes, perhaps you are of age, so there's no issue in that part there. There could be laws on the books that would allow a person who shared a photo and another person who took it to modify it. It could be considered protected under free speech because it is a modified thing of an existing piece, and especially if it's of a public person who's not a private citizen. And you also kind of push boundaries on that if you have a huge social media following and then constantly publish pictures of yourself, so that makes it muddy area as well.
Yes, that's definitely a muddy area.
That's why this is very, very tricky thing.
So that is, I think, pretty much it that covers this this topic. But I just find it interesting, and like I kind of hate AI. Like
I mean, I do too for those reasons. But I will say this: I'm proud of I'm impressed by Melania. She's maintaining her anti-bullying thing from the previous time she was first lady, and she's expanding it out to this, which is good.
Good for her.
I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, it's good for her to, especially like take a stand with regards to stuff like this, and protecting young girls, especially. It's a tough world, man. I can't imagine like being a 14-year-old girl in high school and then it's like your photos being passed around like, oh, you did porn, like, and it's like, no, I fucking didn't do porn. It could ruin somebody's life. Like it's fucking crazy to me that people would do that. Russell Hall, thank you for the 5, says, look, if you want to prove that's not your butt hole floating around online, all you have to do is show your actual butt hole display. It's a fake. Wow.
Right. Are you sure that's you? I'm sure that's not me. It's a fake. Well, let's see the real thing. Just so
I have a birthmark.
Yeah.
Okay, the next topic I actually really wanted to talk about with you because we've talked about this for a long time. And it seems to me like Robert Pattinson is also thinking that he's going to be an old ass fucking man before this movie is done. It says Robert Pattinson says he fucking hopes to begin filming the Batman too soon. I fucking hope so. I started out as a young Batman and I'm going to be a fucking old Batman by the sequel. This is great. What
like
an
he's
interesting
37,
comment.
isn't he? Like he's
I don't know. How old is Robert Pattinson? I think he is older now.
Because he's been acting for over 20 years.
So long. 38. He's 38 years old.
Yeah. So he's 2 years younger than me.
Oh my God, Russell for 2. Yeah, I hope that's a birthmark. Oh God.
Oh boy.
Uh,
So yeah, well, this is funny because our buddy Tom over at Midnight's Edge, he did a mead last night. Now I was on the train home, so I was only able to listen and chime in. But yeah, Matt Reeves has been working on this script for years. He has never turned in a first draft, and by first draft I mean a completed draft, meaning it's got to be a minimum of 90 pages. What he did turn
Jeez.
in was like the first act, which is like 22 pages. And James Gunn and Peter Safran said, "Oh yeah, these are kind of great, but we want the rest." And it's been 3 months and there's been no additional progress. And in fact, even various trades had to retract a statement where they claimed that Matt Reeves had turned in a completed draft because that was not true. So this guy's been spending a long time working on part 2. And the movie has also been pushed back 3 times because it was supposed to come out, like I think the latest version before it was pushed back again, it was supposed to come out October of this year.
You know what though? Because I feel like I kind of actually am a little glad that it got as much as delayed as it did, because my problem, and I think a lot of other people's problem with the original movie of this, like not the original Batman, but this the Batman, was how kind of it kind of went woke near the end, and it was kind of like, that whole thing with the white man, like the whole dialogue, and
well,
just,
I mean, I understand the direction of that, but you also have to understand the context of the character where she's literally saying hypocrisy because she's staring at a white man that is doing none of the things she's accusing white men of doing.
Right. But I also feel like that whole thing and the whole like Antifa crowd and everything that was kind of put in there was like
and then the incel thing with the
timepiece.
Riddler. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, I feel like maybe now for the second one, it's going to be a little bit more based. Like it's going to be just, like maybe they're not going to be so, for the lack of a better term, woke.
I don't know if Matt Reeves has that level of imagination for this, because again, the Batman, objectively speaking, like I can prove it factually. It is the worst written Batman story ever produced for live action on screen.
It wasn't great, man. Wasn't great.
I would rather watch Batman and Robin because at least it has a villain with a goal that knows what it wants to do with its goal. Where Riddler's villain goal is like, I'm going to flood Gotham, and then what? Oh,
like
exactly. That's it.
Like, okay, it's so funny that you say that, because for all the hate that Batman and Robin get, I actually like that movie because it's fun. Like, again, it's not one of those movies where it's like it takes itself too fucking seriously, like this movie did, and you're like, I'm watching a fucking commentary on Antifa. Like, I don't need this right now. I'm here to like, I want to watch Batman beat up bad guys and like
solve a crime would be
solve
fun.
a crime. Yeah, be Batman. I don't need this shit. And like him with the whole like emo Bruce Wayne, like, oh God, give me a
It's
break.
very derivative because it's CW level. It's like, oh, he's
so
emo and
CW.
emotional, and then he hates Alfred because he lied about his parents or some crap like that.
Some bullshit. It was so contrived. Like I was like, what is this bullshit? Like I just couldn't stand it. So I feel like now maybe possibly with like everything that's happened, maybe he's gonna get like some more help on the writing. Like I don't know, but maybe something will be better.
I seriously doubt where they're ever going to shoot this film, and because here's the mandate of DC Studios, they're not rolling film until the script is just right, which means it has to pass James Gunn and Peter Safran's approval. And I mean that's why I'm not too worried about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, because even though it's got Tom King's involvement in there, Tom King does not really write in sync with what James Gunn's taste is. He comes up with concepts that James Gunn likes, but not the execution.
I agree.
James Gunn is not going to let this falter outside of what he wants to do. Now, even though the Batman is part of the Elseworlds, James Gunn still oversees that. And I don't think I think the Penguin, which Matt Reeves was a producer named only on, kind of showed him that he is out of his weight class when it comes to writing these types of stories. And the Penguin was fairly good, except for the fact that it also had a contrived element, which is the world bent to Penguin's will so that he could be in the position he needed to. I mean, the fact that they had Salvatore Moroni die of a heart attack when
Yeah,
he's
but was
kicking the Penguin's ass. It's like, yeah, that's a cop out. And it's not even well set up or established. It's you're helping their villain attain more power without him using his wit or guile to actually get it. Things are just working out for him, and like that's not good writing. But the characters themselves, the performances they gave, kind of put a shroud over that. Because I mean, you're
you
so
can make
invested in the
you can
relationship.
write some of it off because I
Yeah.
thought the same thing as you about that, but it was just like I'm gonna let it pass because it's just so good. So I'm like, okay, like especially like with that performance and everything. See, you could say the same thing about like the Batman, right? Like there are certain things that you could pass, like, and I was trying to, especially like for
Jeffrey
example,
Wright
with
was
the
great.
score,
Yeah.
right? Like the score was so good and the cinematography was so great that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let these things pass because
There was some. I mean, the cinematography for how they captured Gotham was pretty good. They did
Yeah.
falter with the close-ups when Batman is like jumping out in the squirrel suit, and the car chase was actually terribly cut together because the scenes that were cut where there's supposed to be intensity to be continued, they would actually have these massive delays. Especially like when the Batmobile is supposed to be flying through a fire thing, you see it take off, and then you have this long pause. And you're
So then it,
waiting
like,
for
lands.
it. And it's like you don't do a long pause before the thing comes through. What you usually do is you set up a consequence from an action, and then you do wide to see like, oh, where's the explosion, where's the change, and then you see the reveal is like, oh, he managed to get out of that somehow. And then we raise the question like, well, how did he do that? And then some sort of gadget or switch is flipped off, and that deactivates like a shield or whatever thing for the fire or whatever you have. And then you're like, oh, cool, he thought ahead of that. Oh, I get it. And the
I
bait
see
and
what you're
switch
saying.
type of thing. You can actually pull an example of it from an earlier Batman movie like Batman Forever. So in Batman Forever, Batman falls through a tube and he's thrown into this like pit area in a construction site, and Two-Face has pumped it full of gas. And then he launches a rocket into it. And so a big fireball is coming. And what does Batman do? Well, he throws his cape over his body and he flips some sort of switch on his utility belt. We don't know what it is, but that gets engulfed in flames. And Two-Face is dancing around. He's like, oh, I'm so happy, whatever. And then all of a sudden, Batman bursts out of the flames and he's fine. And you realize, okay, that device protected him from whatever
that was.
And that's how you cut those types of things together. And the fact that the Batman couldn't learn that basic editing skill, or Matt Reeves compelled the editor to violate that editing style, just shows that he was not equipped to these types of stories. And whatever was going on with Planet of the Apes, he clearly had a producer involved that was telling him no, so that he could have those movies work. And unfortunately, with Warner Brothers, he didn't have anyone checking his work, because why would you want a 3+ hour Batman film where your introduction to the character is he's walking like a Terminator into a scene, and then he's also expelling a ton of energy, beating up one guy, and then fighting all these other ones, and then the way that they laid out the mystery was very amateur. It's like someone who's never read a mystery novel before in his life.
There was definitely a lot of problems with the movie.
There was.
As the time went on, I was like, there's less and less excuses I can make for it until basically the ending, and I was like, the fuck did I just
and then
watch?
having Batman knock on the door to Penguin's Club to be invited inside.
That was so stupid with his little hood on. Like, what is happening right now?
Then he goes in as Bruce Wayne with his hood on and the backpack, and then he changes to do Batman stuff inside again. I mean, it's really just someone who, listen, I give him props for trying to do something very different with Batman, but there's a lot of stuff that also that gets repeated from other Batman films and television episodes. So yeah, it's it's not good, and I don't look forward to the Batman Part 2. I continue to have this spider sense in the back of my mind saying this is never actually going to make it to fruition.
It's like the Star Wars movies. Like how many
Ryan
Star Wars movies
trilogy.
and like none of them are going to be coming out. Real quick, let me get this one. Russell Hall for 2 says it's always awkward when they have a freckle. Jesus, Russell. That is kind of awkward. But there's also Pattinson is coming out with a new movie. It's called Mickey 17. Have you heard about that?
I have. It's He gets cloned many
Yeah,
times.
he's a clone in space or something like that.
He's
And
a cloned worker that he's every time he dies, he's recloned, and he's got to pay off some sort of debt, or he's working up for some money, or he's on some sort of contract thing. And
yeah, I'm sold. I
yeah,
gotta
the
tell
trailer
you.
was funny, I thought.
I watched the trailer, and first of all, I actually really do like Robert Pattinson. I think
He's
he
a
has
good actor,
range.
yeah.
He's a good actor. And we're not gonna watch this, but there was definitely certain scenes in the movie where I was like, I'm ready for a space movie. Like I'm ready. I like Robert Pattinson. I think it'll be a cool movie. It's got a cool concept. And yeah, I want to watch this movie. So I'm interested. I'm trying to convince my husband to go to the theater with me because he hates going to the theater, but I don't. I love it. So I definitely want to watch this. When is this coming out again?
A couple of weeks from now, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to watch this for sure. I'm very interested. Did you ever see the movie God, what is that movie? It's
Moon?
with him and Tom Holland.
Oh,
The Devil All the Time or something like
I think
that.
so, yeah.
That was a crazy movie, man. I was so impressed with both of their performances that after that movie, I was like, both those guys can basically do anything because it was a very different movie from, well, certainly what Tom Holland usually does, which is Spider-Man.
Spider-Man and a bunch of other movies nobody watches. Yes.
Right. And then this one was well, I mean, technically the Devil All the Time is also a movie nobody watched.
Yeah.
Except
I
me,
mean, he also
apparently.
he played opposite Daisy Ridley in a film not too long ago.
Oh yeah, I never watched that one because I don't
Yeah.
watch Daisy Ridley. I don't watch Daisy Ridley movies. I'm not a big fan. I'm like, you ruined Star Wars, you bitch. I know I shouldn't hate her, but I kind of do a little bit. But I don't know. Watching that though, I was like, this guy does have range. Like, because I've seen him in so many things now, and I feel like he can do it. So I'm interested. I especially love space. Like space.
Mhm.
Sign me up. Like let's freaking go.
Oh, then you also might be excited for like Hail Mary because that's coming out this year too.
What's that? I never heard of this.
I think that's a Ryan Gosling film. It's based off of a book series.
Oh yes, I am so excited for that movie. Yes, I'm definitely excited. I haven't read it, but actually, I want to. Nerd Cookies told me it's a really good book.
Yeah,
So I want to read it.
I've actually had it on my shelf for a while now, and it's underneath about 20 other books I have on my list to read that I haven't
know,
gotten to
same
yet.
here. I'm in the middle of one already, and I'm just like, so many books I need to read.
Yeah,
I have to remember that book though.
It's hysterical because I don't get my books from Amazon. I get them from other places, but they always arrive in bulk in the mail. And my girlfriend got used to it pretty quick, but my neighbor's still like, why do you have so many books? It's like, well, I like to read.
You can never have enough. Honestly, I feel like you can never have enough.
The best part is that they're not power dependent. So as long as I have a light source, I can always read it.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of space, I saw this. I was like, okay, that's enough with the musicals. Like I get that there's a musical trend going on, but this dude Bong Joon-ho says that one franchise movie that he would love to do or he would like to do is Alien, but as a musical. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Like,
Yeah.
no.
And for starters, some kids actually made a really good Alien musical stage play. Just film that. It's actually really good.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
What?
No. It's apparently really good. Well, I mean, I think so. There's this weird thing that happened at the turn of the century where people were taking cult films and turning them into comedic musicals. And one of the best ones I ever saw was the Evil Dead 1 and 2, the musical, which was made by a bunch of Canadians in Toronto around 2003. I got to see the very first performance live. It was a blast. There was a splatter zone. It was both showing reverence and mockery of those two films. And I've even got a shirt called "What the F is that?" Because that's basically one of the musical numbers is "What the F is that?" And you can actually see one of their earlier performances on YouTube for free. It's like 90-minute show, and it's a lot of fun. And then I would see other ones pop up. That there was like a Highlander musical.
A Highlander musical.
Yeah, and it actually incorporated some of the Queen songs as well, so it kept it up to date. And then just a few years ago, I remember seeing videos of an Alien musical, and it's done by kids on stage, but it was the stuff that I saw was like, wow, this is really good, and apparently the reviews were really good as well.
That's crazy to me. That's crazy. It needs to stop, and it needs to end. Stop making musicals of things like freaking Alien. No, but I don't know. I mean, if it's good, I guess it's good. I do love
the thing
musicals.
is, when you're dealing with like the way that those musicals work is the fact that they're a comedy genre on a cult classic. You're not supposed to take it seriously. They're
Right, you're not
to be fun
supposed to take
for the
it
audience,
seriously.
whatever. If he was trying to do a serious dramatic musical for this, I'd be like, dude, you completely lost the plot of what a musical is supposed to do. All
The
musicals are supposed to be
all
comedy.
musicals are supposed to be like a fun take on something. I think like it can't be. You can't take yourself too seriously with a musical.
Well, like Singing in the Rain is a comedy, and it's one of the best musicals out there. And
I think
musicals are comedies, essentially.
that is true. And I will tell you this, one of my favorite musicals of all time, and I've brought this up before to you, and I'm going to do it again because I feel like this movie is way too underrated, is Hamlet 2. Hamlet 2 is one of
Yes.
the funniest musicals I've ever seen in my life. And the cast is great. I mean, that line where he's like, so why do I feel like I've been raped in the face? Like, I couldn't stop laughing at that fucking song. It was just,
The
it was
songs
so
are funny.
good.
I like the fact that he's like, I am your teacher, but I don't even get paid. I get given gas money. That's why I rollerblade here.
I forgot that Amy Poehler was in this movie. I just like
Amy
saw
Poehler's
this.
in the movie, but Elizabeth Shue was brilliant in it.
It's so good. I mean, she's good in everything.
Yeah.
Have you? I'm sure you've seen The Babysitter, right?
Oh, Adventures in Babysitting?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Gosh, the guy who plays Wilson Fisk is in that as the Thor mechanic.
Yeah, that's the
And
Thor guy. I still see her as the babysitter. My husband still calls her the babysitter whenever we see her in anything. We're like, it's the babysitter.
Vincent D'Onofrio. That's sorry.
With Vincent D'Onofrio. Have you seen Daredevil, the new one?
Yeah, I saw the first 2 episodes. I thought it was a good start.
Did you liked it?
I see what they're. I mean, I think I know what they're doing, and I'm interested to see how it goes. It's not based off the actual Born Again comic. It's just using the title because they're setting up for they're repeating a theme that they've done the first 3 seasons, where Matt Murdock is trying to distance himself from Daredevil, but keeps getting drawn back into it. So that's the kind of Born Again aspect of it. And they're also doing the same thing with Wilson Fisk, which they're aping from the time he ran for mayor of New York many years ago. And he is trying to be a clean politician in a city that is corrupt. And we'll probably watch
Wilson Fisk is trying to be clean. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, no, they actually do some stuff in there that's like, yeah, he's trying to be on the up and up. And what you're going to see is that eventually he'll most likely fall into what he knows how to do well in order to get the outcome he needs. And I
mean, he
really
would be
hope
the kingpin if we didn't do that.
Well, there's this trope in the Netflix series that people don't seem to pick up on, and it's okay that they don't. But it basically shows there's 2 parallel stories going on. There's Matt Murdock is doing his own thing, and Wilson Fisk is doing his own thing, and they kind of cross over. But Wilson Fisk is actually making decisions that are leading to his downfall without Matt Murdock's actions actually factoring into it at all. Like, you watch the first season, it's fantastic, but his downfall comes to the fact that he meets and falls in love with Vanessa and becomes a little bit more of a public figure, and therefore people have got a target on him, and then his reaction to that is exposing him for who he is. And then the second season kind of does the same thing. Matt Murdock is only there just messing around with the Russian taxi cab things and rescuing some people and getting help from the night nurse. And then at the very end, when Fisk has already been arrested, with Matt Murdock kind of as a lawyer helping contribute to that, but not much. Only at the end does he show up as Daredevil and beat the crap out of him so that he goes back to jail. And then then season 2 is kind of like repeats similar story beats of that structure.
I
Same
haven't
thing with
seen season
3.
3. Don't tell me.
I won't say anything about season 3, but I'll put it to you this way: with regards to season 3, it always follows the formula that whatever Wilson Fisk is doing, he is actually building his own demise, and Matt Murdock is just kind of there, but he's also dealing with his own thing at the same time. I really hope this season kind of.
I think Wilson Fisk always does that, though, right? I mean, that's the kind of character that I knew in even Spider-Man.
You want to think with the comics and the cartoons, you want your villain to be doing something, and you want your hero's actions to actually be directly impeding what the villain is trying to achieve. And in the Daredevil Netflix series, it's almost inconsequential. You could actually easily rewrite it with Matt Murdock out, and it's the inevitable fall of Fisk would still happen.
Okay.
So I mean, and that's kind of its biggest problem. But I mean, the thing is that they make the Wilson Fisk story so interesting that you're fine to watch it, and you're seeing his downfall. And then they make what Matt Murdock is doing so interesting that you're able to follow the story. But they are actually two very divorced stories that barely cross over. And then even though they're, Matt Murdock has those scenes in season 1 where he's talking about we got to stop Fisk. And it's like, well, nothing you're doing is really stopping him. It just isn't. I'm sorry. He just crushed the guy's head in the door.
Try harder, damn it.
He crushed his head in the car door, nothing there. You had the assistant in that first season go out of his way to get Karen Page, and then Karen Page kills him. Well, that has nothing to do with Murdock or Daredevil actually being a hero to cause that. That is completely separate, because that has to do with Ben Urich, who was then killed. All these things are happening without Daredevil's interference or involvement. But whatever Daredevil is doing, he's actually kind of he's screwing up the Russian taxi and human trafficking issues, and he's saving those people. He's doing all these small things that don't directly impact Fisk at the level with which you think a superhero's actions should. And it just makes for a very interesting type of narrative for it. But I'm hoping for season 3 that there's actually a bit more direct involvement where Fisk is going to try and do something, and Daredevil shows up to actually stop it. And not as an end of the climax type of thing, or strictly in the courtroom where it's some sort of third party that is connected loosely to Fisk, but Fisk is still able to get away unscathed. And whatever that third party is doing is so minor that it still doesn't stop Fisk from his own stuff. There's those types of things that bug me a little bit, but you can overlook them because the story that's framed around that is usually told really well.
Apparently, according to Cavatina, which now I've confirmed, it's been confirmed as a season 2 already on the way. I guess it's been renewed.
What is this? Milica?
This is Screen Rant.
So they're idiots, because the season that they're shooting was always going to be.
It says it was confirmed even before season 1 release on Disney Plus. So I guess they ordered 2 seasons.
No, they ordered 18 episodes. And they shot 18 episodes, and they've now decided that we are going to distribute it as 2 seasons.
2 seans. Okay.
So these guys here at Screen Rant are morons. They didn't do any due diligence.
Well, I mean,
just like the people who are reporting on Amazon,
all the trades, they do that. They'll be it happened the same thing with Cobra Kai, for example. They were it's gotten the final season, and then they fucking split the season into 3 fucking parts, and then
it worked for their Netflix contract, but I would have liked it to see just continuous week over week over week, or maybe just the full binge. But
I dislike that final season a lot. I'm gonna get a lot of hate on that for this, but I really did not like the final season of Cobra Kai.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like the final 3 episodes. I feel like they should have just made the 3 episodes that whole season that.
Well, so you're probably under the groups that I have seen other people share, which is out of these 15 episodes, 7 of them feel like they're filler and they're not moving the story forward. Yeah.
Yep. That was it. And also the main fight made no sense. The big fight that they did, and then all of a sudden it was a huge time jump.
At the tournament that kind of broke. Yeah. That just felt. That felt like that's part of their brand. So their franchising brand is that you have one massive fight in the middle of the season to show some stuff. But to roll back just a tiny bit with regards to the trades. So it was reported that Rings of Power was extended for another season, but when the deal was signed, it's like Amazon said, we're making 5 seasons. So you can't keep on saying it's been renewed or whatever. It's guaranteed. It's locked in. Like these people who are operating the trades are even worse journalists than you'd ever give them credit for.
Yeah, it was the same thing with like Velma too. Like, remember when Velma was originally like they ordered 2 seasons, and then at the end of the season 1, they were like, they're renewed for season 2, and everybody was like, oh my god, how can you renew this fucking garbage? And then it was like, oh, it was
you've got reporters claiming to be having their finger on the pulse of the industry and how it works, and they're spouting out the dumbest stuff ever, which is that since 2014, cartoon shows are always ordered with a 2-season order because they shorted the actual season runtime. So they always ordered around 26 episodes, and that's why you got 2 seasons of 13. Why? Because it's really expensive to do a cartoon. Same thing with X-Men 97. They ordered 2 seasons. After midway through the first season, they're like, okay, we're going to do more. But Bo DiMaggio has a controversy because that's made up by Disney, supposedly.
That was sad.
And now, even though they had all the animatics and all the entire cast recorded season 2 already, they're now redoing it all over again for ego.
So crazy to me. I can't believe they're going to ruin that.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed what it was doing, but it was kind of rushing through a lot of history of X-Men in that series, which I thought was kind of a misstep. But everything else of it, tone-wise, was pretty good. But the fact of the matter is that, cartoons are typically done for 2 seasons. Yes, there'll be another Caped Crusader Batman show on Amazon because, again, they ordered 2 seasons of it. You're not going to see a follow-up season because that first season did not perform so well. That is just how cartoons are. Heck, even Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man cartoon, which is actually much better than what you would think it is. It's going to have a second season, and then midway through that second season, Disney is going to determine if they're going to do more. That's just how it is.
Rings of Power season 3, The Mount of Ukraine.
Wait, hasn't season 3 already dropped?
I think so.
Yeah, I can't keep track.
No, it's season 2. This season 3 is about to drop. It's a new one that's coming out.
Drop.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't watch the second season. I don't fucking know. That's funny though. The Mount of Ukraine. Okay. I had so much more stuff to talk about, but let's really quickly go because I put this through in the title.
Sure.
Some of the Blake Lively updates. So a couple things happened. One, she hired a CIA agent to I don't know what she's doing, honestly. Like, I'm very confused about why you why you would feel like that is a good idea to do at this time. Hire a CIA agent when everybody hates you and the CIA. It's such a terrible look. It's like, who's advising these people on their optics? I don't know. I love how you shrugged.
I know. I just don't have any other way to express myself when I see read and hear these things.
It's bizarre. So that was one of the updates that happened since we talked about it. And then this dropped today. Now, this is not really to do with, I mean, technically it's not to do with Blake Lively per se, but it's about Justin Baldoni's suing of the New York Times based on the Blake Lively situation. So the judge made a ruling today, and Legal Bites, shout out to her for dropping this. She's got a channel. I think she's doing coverage of this, so go and give her a sub. But this is basically, she dropped a thread that talks about this and saying that the judge ruled against JB and Wayfair parties on the subject of staying discovery sought from New York Times. Below, we'll talk about what that means and what the arguments were, why the judge decided this way, and what this might say about what's to come. So first, what's a stay on discovery? This was a request by the New York Times for the judge to order pause on the discovery served on the New York Times. They asked for this immediately upon filing a motion to dismiss themselves from Justin Baldoni's lawsuit. Now, in the New York Times letter filed with the court on 2/28/25, they said the court should stay the discovery as to them for four main reasons. One, that this is a defamation case, which clearly implicates potential First Amendment issues like chilling free speech. So courts favor discovery stay for motion to dismisses for cases like this. Two, there's a strong likelihood that the New York Times might win their motion to dismiss. Three, discovery is likely to be far-reaching, expensive, and wrought with complications, like the complicated issue of whether discovery would touch New York's shield law, which protects the disclosure of things like confidential sources. And four, a stay would put prejudice the other parties to the lawsuit. Would not prejudice the other parties to the lawsuit. Any comments so far?
No, it's pretty reasonable because, again, when it comes to discovery of a newspaper, you have to word the rules of discovery very specifically so that the opposing counsel is only looking at what's pertinent to their case.
Yes.
And that's for privacy protection with regards to sources. That's also with privacy protection with regards to other stories they are working on that are unrelated to the issue that they might be breaking, that might reveal something else for another issue, for another situation.
Correct.
So that makes, that's usually why when most newspapers file a motion to dismiss, especially with regards to discovery, is because it's like, we have other stories we're working on. This could compromise our ability to complete those stories and release them with, proper, if journalists and newspapers actually did their proper due diligence, in the perfect world, it would protect them from having their stories they're working on being exposed, and then ruining a scoop or a chance to reveal the truth about something that they are currently investigating. There might also be in conjunction, because newspapers actually do work in conjunction with the police when it comes to investigations, because sometimes journalists can gather information and sources that they can work out an arrangement legally with the authorities to pass that information along so that they can follow up with an investigation, get the necessary warrants they need, and then pursue arrests and followed up by charges. So, because my understanding of the context, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that Justin Baldoni wants to have discovery on the New York Times so that he can prove that there is coordination between that paper and Blake Lively's people to smear JB. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So yeah, that's my commentary.
That's from my understanding as well. This case is so very complicated when it comes to like this kind of stuff. It gets a little bit like when you get into the weeds of the legal jargon, it gets a little bit, especially when it comes to this, right? Because this is about the New York Times aspect of it. So it's a little bit different than what Justin Baldoni is going to be going through himself. Now, having said this, for example, like this motion did get dismissed from what I understand. So like, we're not going to go through this whole thing, but it says, the judge said that WP won't actually be unfairly prejudiced by the discovery state. Actually, let me read this. The judge also said that even the hold on. Okay. So the judge said that there's a good chance that the New York Times wins on their motion to dismiss. To support this idea, the judge even highlighted WAP's argument from their letter that they might want to amend their complaint. So the judge basically told them, you might want to amend this. Now, before anyone starts claiming that the judge is biased against WP, and for everybody to keep in mind that that he sees MTD's motion to dismisses all the time, and having read New York Times' motion to dismiss, he can have developed an impression that they have very strong arguments. He can also potentially be swayed by WP's arguments in opposition. That said, and I haven't talked about this all much, this is legal bites saying this, but in my opinion, the claims that JB and WB makes against the New York Times are hands down his weakest claims. It's insanely difficult to win defamation claims against journalism outlets for a whole host of reasons, especially one like the New York Times, which is used to litigation and winning against defamation claims. So this is what the judge said here. The New York Times' motion presents substantial grounds for dismissal, and the New York Times has made strong showing that its motion to dismiss is likely to succeed on its merits. Indeed, the Wayfair parties note that their complaint may need to be amended to address the issues raised by the motion to dismiss. And then it goes on to say, the burden of discovery is not measured only by the numbers of pages the movement will be required to proceed, but also to be complexity of the issues that discovery will present and the sensitivity of the documents that will be requested. So it's all about like privacy laws and stuff like that to protect other people, really, and the defamation lawsuits and stuff like that. So really, this is a little bit of a blow to Justin Baldoni, but not really, like, because
it's a setback, but it's not going to be the end of the day.
Yeah, and also, like, even if this gets dismissed, like, even if like his lawsuit against the New York Times get dismissed, it doesn't mean that he can't use the evidence in his own lawsuit against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds that he has, for example, with her claiming that he and his publicists and stuff like that are doing PR, what's it called? Like PR things against her.
Oh, you mean smear campaign?
Like smear campaigning her, where he can prove that she smear campaigned him with the New York Times with the metadata and like the metadata story. So he could still submit that evidence even if this case gets dismissed with the New York Times, because that I think that the judge will still accept that. That's still part of like the evidence of his other case.
It's entirely possible. Yeah. I mean, again, this is a civil suit, so there are different stipulations versus like a criminal trial.
Yes. Yes. It's gonna get really, really hairy as we keep going on. I don't know if they're gonna dismiss this or not, but it does sound like they might. So we'll find out. But yeah, that was basically the update. I don't know why she hired a CIA agent though. I'm still kind of like
probably to manipulate data or generate something that would make her look good. You know.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was the guy that like did the cover up for the Hunter Biden laptop. So
well, then he wasn't that good at it.
No, not at all. Thank you, Darren. He's dropping the link for the legal bites. And I also noticed that we've got Ryan Reynolds' clone in here. Okay, if you're in touch with the original, please let him know that they're being retarded and just settle, man. Just settle. Just settle, apologize, and move on with your lives.
Yeah.
I don't know why this has gotten out of hand, but if you're in touch with your original self, let him know to quit being retarded and quit being so petty and putting people in your movies and shit. Like, what are you doing?
He's being a British Columbian. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to paint with such a strong brush, but I mean, they're not all like that. That's for sure. But
he says, "I'll let him know."
He is definitely a representative of this.
You know what? It's so annoying that I hate to agree with you,
dude. I have interviewed a bunch of people to set up an office out there, and a lot of them were like Ryan Reynolds, but without talent. And my superiors are like, why are we having such a difficulty finding someone that can work out there? It's like, well, the demographic is not great, and it's a demographic of a province that doesn't like to work. and the ones that you do find that do like to work, they already have really good jobs, so that's why. You know.
I know. I feel bad, Darren. I feel bad. Darren's from BC. I know. It's like I hate to agree with him though, Darren. I've known dudes like Ryan Reynolds, and they're awful.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, awful. I hate being right about this, but because there are a lot of good people that have grown up and born and raised in British Columbia, and others that have moved there, and they're the ones that kind of you have better interactions with than some of the people that are like Ryan Reynolds, or the people that like to do their drugs underneath various bridges, or the people that get kicked out of Canada Place.
Look, the Canadians are making some strange choices recently. Okay, like
Yeah.
I don't know. I heard something about Justin Trudeau being like, let's keep booing the U.S. national anthem or some shit like that. Like,
Oh, no, that was okay. So he was trying to couch the booing at the national anthem is not a booing of the anthem or booing of the citizens, but booing of the policy. And I'm like, that's not how that
that's not
works.
true. And you're
And
retarded
Doug
if you think
Ford
that's
said,
true.
"Don't you dare boo the American national anthem, and Americans don't you dare boo the Canadian national anthem." Like that's what he said.
I cannot believe I agree with Doug Ford. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
the dumbest thing that Canada is doing right now is threatening dollar for dollar tariffs on U.S. goods because that doesn't
Yeah.
actually help anybody.
It's not going to help anybody at all.
No, it's literally repeating the very problem that they're accusing Donald Trump doing to his own people, and now he's doing it here. And then the irony of the fact that at least in my area, and I'm not just in like the Greater Toronto area, but also outside, the vast majority of goods and services and equipment is all domestically made. So like we have to go out of our way to find American imports in my neck of the woods.
Yeah.
But there are a number of them elsewhere, but they don't sell that well. I mean, the thing that sells the most in Ontario is U.S. liquor, and that's all being put into a storage right now until the tariffs drop. They're not going to sell until the tariffs drop. So they're just going to. They've already paid for it.
That people like Americans were making fun of that because they were like, "Oh, the Canadians are taking the like what they already paid for off the shelves and they're like putting it away or
Well,
throwing
they thought
it out."
we were destroying it, but we're not. We're just storing it.
Well, and like I get why they're doing it, but it's kind of like out of principle at this point, which I think is dumb. Like it's like it's just stop it. Like just stop playing this game. I don't know. I just don't get what they're doing.
Well, it's the foolish thing because the only thing that Canada has to do is say, okay, we're selling you our oil at full market value, and the U.S. is helpless to do anything because even if they cheat in every corner of construction possible to either upgrade or build a new refinery, it's going to take a minimum of 10 years to do that. And then on top of that, if they want to try and get similar oil from Russia or try and build a pipeline from Alaska, again, the deal's not going to be overnight and the construction's not going to be overnight.
No.
I'm sorry, guys, but previous decades of administrative arrogance with regards to the oil industry has made your country 100% dependent on Canadian oil. And there's nothing you can do about it within the next 10 to 15 years. So, I mean, I think you want to think you're holding all the cards, but all it takes is for Alberta to say, yeah, we're going to sell you at full market value. Good luck.
I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna. I mean,
they're not gonna, but they could.
Smart.
And it would actually, actually really cause the United States to freak out.
That would, that would fuck up some people.
Same thing,
for sure.
Because we also export potash. We also export all the uranium minerals that enrich the United States domestic reserves of uranium. So even if they try to go full nuclear, they still need to buy from us. And they can't get it anywhere else. And Russia will not sell their uranium to the United States, is my understanding.
At least not yet.
I mean,
maybe in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, give it a couple of weeks. That could change. But the other part too is that Canada does import a bunch of stuff from the US. And if you take out the energy, we actually have a deficit with the United States instead of the other way around. So yeah, even Canada has to get in gear with regards to what they produce. One of the things I'd really like is to get rid of the tariff on dairy, because we have a dairy mafia in Canada that is not
dairy mafia is insane in Canada. I fucking hate those.
They are controlling farmers and forcing them to dump billions of gallons of milk.
Yeah. Lauren Southern did a story about that. That was fucking insane. I was livid for those farmers. There was Galadorn said CIA kind of known for being good at subterfuge. Strange choice. See, Galadorn, the reason this is really strange is because right before they hired that, they had asked for 2 years of phone calls from Justin Baldoni and anybody, like his grandma, like not pertaining to the case, like anybody that he's ever talked to. They wanted these phone conversations where they were, like they wanted GPS tracking, they wanted all this shit. So the judge shut that shit down, and then they were like, the next actor that they do is go and hire the CIA guy, which I feel like is a bit of a, well, if you're not going to give us access, I'll find access some way. And the way I can do it is maybe hire the CIA guy to find some shit for me, because maybe the guy has access. I don't know, but that's my guess.
Or
It
knows,
feels like
knows
she's
people that could get access, right? That type of thing.
right.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like she's going around the legal method to get what she wants, which I don't know how she could use in the case if you get it through like shady means, right? Like, I don't know how
Yeah.
you could do that, but
Well, I mean,
mean,
again, because it's a civil case, I mean, not criminal, you can kind of get them from almost any means you need, so long as you're cooperative with the people that are providing the information. Because criminal case, you have to have warrants and and everything has to be above board. So yeah, but a civil case, I mean, it's he said, she said type of thing. Bring forth what you have. You can request discovery of personal files, and judges can, agree to them or dismiss them based on lack of merit. I mean,
ooh,
I'm not a
and
lawyer, but I do write for them on TV.
and they did the other part of the update too, is I forgot that the judge ruled that in the New York case, the public can phone in. So that's going to be a shit show.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, because the public and basically press can phone into which is unheard of, because usually, New York has those privacy laws. I was shocked that they made that ruling, but I guess the judge doesn't care. They want them to be a little bit public. Russell Hall for 2 says, good old U.S. liquor up front and poker in the rear. I don't know what to say. On that note, I think we're going to end the show. Thank you, Script Doctor, for being here tonight. You have been a fantastic guest, as always. I love talking to you.
I love talking to you too. You're a great host, and I'm happy that I was able to swing by this evening and get entertain everyone out there in the chat and those listening on the replay.
We did. I mean, there was so much more stuff to talk about, but I'm exhausted. But we'll talk about it maybe next week, because
sure.
One of the other topics was Casey Anthony, and I can't believe that bitch is back. But I'm so tired, so I can't go into it now. But like, I had forgotten about her. I was like, what? Who is she again? Is that the bitch that killed her baby? I was just like, who this fucking bitch? What is she doing here? But yeah, apparently she's back, and now she's threatening to sue people. It's like a whole thing. But we'll definitely have to cover that maybe next week. You're more than welcome to come back and join me again.
Oh, great.
But yeah, thank you, everybody. Script Doctor, cover or plug your wares. Let everyone know where they can find you.
You can find me at youtube.com/scriptdoctor, where every Saturday I do a show called Scripts on Saturdays, where I pull a screenplay that's currently circulating around Hollywood looking for sale, or in some cases has recently been sold. They'll be going into production, and we give it a good review and an analysis and see if it's a good story or not. Fun fact, Robert Pattinson has actually signed on to a script we reviewed a few weeks ago called How to Save a Marriage, where it's a body swap horror film.
Ooh.
Where Robert Pattinson is swapped into a woman's body, and vice versa, and they have to figure themselves out.
Do they know who the woman's going to be yet?
I don't recall who is signed on as the woman, but the woman is the bad guy in the movie. So when she gets into Robert Pattinson's body, he gets to play the bad guy. So yeah, that's that'll be interesting. So yeah, this week we're doing it's a heist movie. It's with the bank teller's got is a sleight of hand magician, and she's teaming up with a rogue FBI agent to rob their bank. And will they be able to pull it off? And why are they robbing it? Find out this Saturday at 7 p.m. on youtube.com/scriptdoctor. And then you can follow me on the Twitter X's at scriptdoctorphd.
Very cool. Yes. And the links are in the description, and Darren's also dropping them in the chat. So make sure you go and subscribe over there. And as for me, you can find me on this channel on Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, where I will be talking about good news and balancing out this show and the crazy world that we live in by reminding you that there is still good things going on out there, including just good humans, cute animals, turtle love, and much, much more. So make sure you join me there. And also, I do have a special channel dedicated to good news now called Good News Infinite Hope, the same name as the show. But it has its own channel now. I'm trying to move it all over there. So if you haven't subscribed there, go and do so. And thank you. Many, 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 many thanks to those of you who super chatted, became a member, gifted memberships, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for supporting the show in the way that you do, because it makes it possible for me to do this. And until next time, everybody, have a good night and take care of yourselves. Bye.